left my boots and my faded jeans in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and swapped them for a coat and tie and someplace else to go. I had days that were laced with white lines on narrow blacktop roads, with honky-tonks around each bend and drunken episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, saints and sinners, welcome to the Saturday Night Church of the Search, where we spend some time talking about the Forrest Fenn Treasure Hunt. We open up the phone lines later on. Until then, if you need to get something out, you can send a text message to 202-815-1171, or you can call right now and leave a voicemail of up to 2 minutes. We'll see if we can tolerate that. And we've got a giveaway tonight, and there's kind of a cute story that goes along with it, so I'm going to give that away tonight just because. And then we're going to talk about this book. I finally got it in. It's The Secret, and we're going to talk about the Boston solution, because it was a solution. Stick with me. Pour yourself an adult beverage while we're waiting.
Midnight rendezvous, and she played memories of songs that made me blue, sweet soft melodies that took me back to you. She stripped me bare and read my heart like it was an open book, and tried to lie as always, but her voice is all it took to bring back Sunday morning rides and sunsets by the stream and old grass beds we made love in and dreamed our silly dreams. I drank her words like they were wine and looked into her eyes.
Hey, Joey. Long time no see. Good to see you in the room, brother.
She turned her head and walked away, made me realize the longest days and the darkest nights were more than I could face. The only thing that I could do
is leave that lonesome place. Cause she played memories,
the kind that we
once danced to,
deep
dark
rhapsodies of the midnight rendezvous. There she played memories of songs that made me blue, sweet soft melodies that took me back to you. Took me back to you. Took me back to you.
Hey, follow that. So we do have a giveaway tonight. It's kind of a cute giveaway. Look at that. The other night I went with my friend to the Albuquerque Museum, where they have a Jim Henson exhibit, and it was beautifully done. It's actually it was actually an exhibit that was developed by the Museum of Film in New York City. And then they're traveling it throughout having it travel throughout the United States. And if you get a chance to see it, for those of you that grew up during that period, it'll bring back a lot of pleasant memories. And it's amazing how talented and hardworking this guy was to turn what started out as a couple of hand puppets into literally a major industry. Anyway, I went to the store in the museum, and they had some, of course, a number of Henson related objects, items. And I owed Janet a pair of earrings. I had given her a turquoise pendant a while back, and I owed her a pair of earrings, and I thought I'd get them there. Anyway, I saw these, and I thought, well, maybe somebody in the room would have some kids or some grandkids that enjoy that. So here's the deal. If you want to win this, go to last night's video, Friday night video, not Wednesday. Go to last night's video, make a comment. We'll do the drawing from there later in the show. How late? I don't know, because I don't know how long I'm going to go tonight. As long as I can. The other thing that I want to talk about is this book, because I want to show you a little bit about the Boston solution, and I'm using solution rather than theory. And I've gone through it all, and I followed it down. And here's what I've discovered about each of the verses, at least the one that's related to Boston, and that is every clue is a metaphor. There are no literal clues, which is an argument that I've been trying to make recently. I think you have to make a decision. Are you following literal clues or metaphors? So in the case of not far but too far to walk, there are searchers out there whose theories include not far to but too far to walk and decide that has to drive. So they've made that a literal clue rather than a metaphor. What you discover in this book, the guy that wrote the book on verses hiding treasures, is that they're all metaphors. No matter what you think they are, they're all metaphors. They represent something. They represent a physical location, as opposed to they're telling you to take the canyon down not far but too far to walk. That's literal. My argument in this case is that all 9 clues, including the ones that sound like literal, not far but too far to walk, are metaphors. And I'm going to show you why I think that. The other thing I want to share with you tonight is that I want to show you how that metaphorical phrase, the one in the book, translates into a physical location, because it is a metaphor, and then you have to find what it represents. And I've got a picture of what it represents. It's not a very big picture, unfortunately, but I'm going to do a lot of what do you call it? Mouse pointing, So we'll figure it out then. In the meantime, I think what we ought to do is play some música. Anyway, I'll remind everybody later to go and make a comment. All that green is Chroma King out. Go and make a comment on Friday night's video if you want to qualify to win these gunned finger puppets. Or as they say in French, marionnette à doigt. Okay, so yeah, pull up a drink, and then I'll open up the phone lines in a little while. Like I said, if you want to reach out to me now, send a text message to 202-815-1171. You can call that number, and you'll get the opportunity to leave a voicemail. But in just a few minutes, we'll open the phone lines, because I don't actually have any emails to read. I don't know. I better check first. Hang on. Check the email box. I don't think there was anything except personal stuff, things that we're dealing with. Let's see. Yeah. And LinkedIn. Okay. So no emails, no text messages, no nothing. So we're going to go straight to the phone lines here in just 1 second. But I want to play this song because I like the name. It's called Si Señorita. Si, señorita. Yes, my dear sweet lady. Let me open up this image and see. Nope, that's better. Okay, so let's spend a few minutes talking about this whole secret thing. And I bought a couple of the books, one for me and one for Shelley, so we could play with it. Shelley and Kevin, because he's interested as well. But the point that I wanted to make, there was a couple of things I wanted to make. The first thing is, and if I can open a big enough image here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, they're all kind of tiny. Oh, that one will work. So I don't know how much you know about this. This is that Expeditions Unknown episode last season, season 7, episode 12, 14, something like that. Boston Secret. The artist, the artist for that song. Let me see. That's in the YouTube audio library, and that is Chris Huggen, Haugen, Huggen, Chris Huggen. So yeah, you can find that, and it is attribution not required in the YouTube library. By the way, I am wearing my veteran homeowner T-shirt, and the reason I'm wearing it is today is the 1-year anniversary of me closing on my house. So moving out of the apartment, and it took me till the end of the month to make the move, but I signed the papers on the 7th of March last year. So I've been in my house a year now. How cool is that? And this studio, the first thing we did before we even moved in, before I even moved in, is we did the studio. Not important. I cannot play Waylon because that's copyrighted material, and I would get a copyright strike, and I would lose my monetization on the video. So we can't do that. All right, so there's a couple of things here that I want to talk about. So this is a secret. For those of you that are not familiar with it, there's a gentleman whose name is Byron Price, and he and several of his partners put together this book after Byron went out and hid 12 treasures in parks. At least everybody assumes they're in parks because the first 3 that were found were in parks. These are the people that worked on the project. And he hid 12 treasures in 12 parks in 12 cities in the United States. And then put together this book. And this book has several things. It has a story that has to be told. And it's about the, let me see, he calls them, that's the fair people, meaning the light-complected people. And he tells a story about them, and there's clues or hints in the stories. But for each of the cities in which there was a treasure, in which they hid a treasure, there was a painting associated with that city. No one expected that there were clues in the painting. It was just that it was there, and there was no way to match the city with the painting. Or the third part was to pick. There's 12 verses, and you had to decide which painting and which set of verses, which verse went with the city, so that it matched. It didn't. There was no indication like the Boston verse and the Boston painting. Well, to a lesser extent, the Boston painting does indicate that it's in Boston. So the 3 cities that have been found as of today are Boston, Cleveland, and Chicago. Those are the 3 cities. People believe that they're very close in St. Augustine, Florida, and San Francisco, California, which some people have resolved. The problem with the Boston one, if you see that episode of Expeditions Unknown, is that the location, he hid it in a city park, and this was 40 or 50 years ago. It was a long time ago. And what had happened is, just before the gentleman who did find it got to the point at which he convinced himself that the treasure was, he realized that the park was under reconstruction. They were rebuilding it, and it was all dug up. And so that he was afraid that they had accidentally dug up the treasure. And this is, of course, your own confirmation bias. The treasure is there, but they dug it up, and I missed it. But he had the courage to go in and talk to the construction company people and convince them of the story. And they said, okay, basically, because he had told them the treasure was hidden under the home plate of the baseball field. And they said, okay, well, we haven't gotten to that point, but when we start digging it up, because we're going to replace it, if we find anything, we'll let you know. And sure enough, one of the days they dug up a piece of plastic, because all the treasure chests were hidden in plexiglass boxes, and they were made of plaster of Paris. And then inside there was an image of a clock. They had all been painted, and all these people worked on this project. But Byron was the one that actually hid. Byron Price was the one that actually hid them. And so they found it. That's the point at which he calls Josh Gates, and he follows them through the clues, and they end up in this park, and they end up digging with his family comes along, Josh, and now the contractors, the construction workers, are helping them. And sure enough, they find all the necessary pieces. Now, it had been broken up because they were using a backhoe to dig it up. So it damaged it, but they found all the pieces. They were able to meet with the Byron Price's wife. He passed away at age 54. I think he was in a car accident, something like that. And his two daughters, and they met at the New York library of the library of the New York Adventure Society. And so they met there, and they presented him with a coin. I'm sorry, not the coin, but the gemstone. The gemstone for Boston was a peridot. So anyway, that's kind of the backstory. And I took an interest in it after seeing the Josh Gates episode. And I'm just going to give you an example. So the verses do not necessarily rhyme. I'm going to read the verse in its entirety. It's like, I don't know, what, 24, not 24, probably between 18 and 20 lines, right? If Thucydides is north of Xenophon, take 5 steps in the area of his direction, a green tower of lights in the middle section, near those who pass the Colosseum with metal walls, face the water, your back to the stairs, feel at home, all the letters are here to see, 18th day, 12th hour, lit by lamplight, in truth be free. Okay? So, each of those turns out to be some form of metaphor. So, for example, all the letters here to see, 18th day, 12 hour, lit by lamplight, in truth be free. That was related to the midnight ride of Paul Revere, which started in Boston. And they still have his house there, Paul Revere's house, as a museum. And that was the reference. You had to know that it was the 18th of April, 75, right? Nary a man is still alive, things like that. You probably, well, you may remember the poem. Paul Revere's Ride. 18th day, 12th hour, lit by lamplight, in truth be free. So there, that metaphor, if you will, related to the location being right across the street from Paul Revere's house. So there was the metaphor, and then there's the reality of the metaphor, which is Paul Revere's house. The one that interested me the most, because it was the starting point, and the starting point was, if Thucydides apparently Greek philosophers choked me up. So if Thucydides is north of Xenophon, take 5 steps in the area of his direction. So what he's saying is, if you Google either of these names, you discover they're Greek philosophers, 400 BC or so. Excuse me. And so that was the clue. If Thucydides is north of Xenophon, take 5 steps in the area of his direction, meaning take 5 steps north. The 5 steps north actually were on a map, and they were the 5 piers that went north from where this was standing, where Thucydides and Xenophon are carved into. And here's the picture. Let me show you the picture. And I'm sorry, this is the best picture I could find of it, but their names. Screenshot. Okay, sorry. Like I said, can't make it bigger. Tried to make it bigger. Let me see. Save, copy, and none of that does it. I guess I could do this. Let me try this. It's not going to do it very well because it's probably going to. Okay. So this is the front of the Boston Public Library. And there's Thucydides, and there's Xenophon. And if Thucydides is north of Xenophon, in this case, take 5 steps in his direction. And the 5 steps were those 5 piers that you would see on a map. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that there was no, although you had to figure out who Thucydides was and who Xenophon was, you really had to find the clue where it was basically right in front of you. In the same way that Warm Water's Halt, I imagine, will be right in front of you. What I'm going to do is, I just got this book today, but I have watched that one episode so often I know all about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find pictures, and there seems to be a lot of material out there. I'm going to find pictures of each of that represent the literal location of each of the clues. For example, the metaphor clue is a green tower of lights in the middle section near those who pass the Coliseum. And a lot of people thought that was Boston has a stadium, and they have this huge wall in the far field, and it has a reputation. They call it the Big Green Monster because it has a reputation of being so high. It's hard to hit a home run in that particular Coliseum, in that particular stadium. So that's what everybody thought it was. It turns out that there's a bridge that goes across the I can't remember the name of the river, but it's a river that divides Boston into 2. And you can't see it during the day, but at night the bridge is lit with green lights. So a green tower of lights in the middle section, because it divides that one river. God, I can't remember the name. They made a couple of movies about it. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make I'll prepare a presentation basically that takes each of the metaphors, and I'm going to show you a photograph of what that metaphor, the literal location that metaphor represents. And honestly, there's not very much trickery in hand. The fun things that you find out afterwards, if you see that, let me go back to my screen here. If you go back to this, when the painter did the painting, this is the painting for Boston. It's on the cover, but he made her hair in the shape of a baseball diamond. Boston is written. You can actually see the top of the B here. There's an O. I don't remember. He showed where each one of the letters was. But the coolest thing is that the treasure was hidden under home plate. And if you look at her cuff right here, it's actually in white. It's in the shape of a home plate. For those of you that know that upside down house looking thing. Point is that this book was published before this all came out in 1982, 6 years before Fenn became ill, was diagnosed with cancer, probably 8 to 9 years before he was declared cancer-free, and at least 10, maybe more than that, before he decided to hide a treasure, and probably 25 to 30 years before he had to write a poem describing where that treasure was. And so I'm wondering if some of the things in this book might not have helped him come to the manner in which he decided to do it with poetry, et cetera, et cetera. So, but what amazed me, what surprised me, was how uncomplex the translation, the transliteration between the metaphor in the verse to the physical location. If Thucydides is north of Xenophon, well, there it is in the Boston, right in the front of the Boston, carved in the marble on the, which gives it some sort of longevity, I imagine, carved in the marble of the Boston Public Library. Pretty nifty. I was impressed, and I think there's a lesson to be learned from that. You mean no one texted you? It's the Charles. Hey, Charles, how are you doing? No, what I do, Charles River. That's it. The Charles River. That's what the river that I was trying to say. But it divides, the Charles divides Boston in two, and he tells you, and you can see on the map. Actually, let me show you what the 5 steps are. Let me see if I can. So I'm not going to have a map of 1982, but the video, as they're describing how Byron Price did this, they show him walking around each of the cities and making notes as to each of the physical locations that he was going to use eventually as clues. And I have a feeling that was very similar to what Fenn did to make his. So let me go to Boston Harbor here. Boston Harbor. Let's see if I can find it. So there's the Charles. Okay. So here are the 5 steps that they figured out. Let me do a screenshot here, and let me go to satellite. I think they show better in satellite. So it was these that were the 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there was one more over here that you can see they turned into a contemporary art space from the city. But in 1982, there were five of these. And then the bridge that he was talking about that you can see, from which you can see the green lights, there's a Paul Revere house. So you take the 5 steps in that direction, there's Paul Revere's house. And let me see if you can see the... let me see if you can see... Oh, there's the 5 steps. But what I wanted to do was... There's the field right there. And the treasure, I think it was hidden under this side of the field. But this is I guess it's been redone. But you can see there's a home plate right there. It was hidden, the treasure was hidden under home plate when it was first there, and then it was dug up and they found it. So this is the revised field. So just to give you an idea of how they figured out. So there's the 5 steps. Those are the 5 steps. And then Paul Revere's house, there's some steps that lead down from it. Anyway, you can actually figure it out while you're looking at a map and reading the clues once you know where the clues are leading you. Now, they made one up, and I think it was probably Josh Gates and his crew that made it up. And that one is the statue of Columbus looking like the face of the woman in the painting. If you look at that statue, it doesn't. He just made it up. It was like no, I don't think that, because it's not a clue. There's no clue like that in the verse. Anyway, I feel like there's Toby, do you know? Oh, it's from Christy. Christy says, do you know the controversy from yesterday about the secret 13th cache? Regarding from the secret? Oh, the secret. You just said that. I don't. I hadn't heard that, Christy. And primarily because I'm not actually following the search. We're thinking about making our vacation plans. Shelley, Kevin, and I, and we think we're going to work on this and maybe go to St. Augustine because it's in Florida, and one of my daughters is in Florida, and I'll have a new grandbaby about that time in Florida. So actually, the grandbaby is coming at the end of this month. On the last weekend of March, we have a new grandbaby. She's going to be induced on the 26th. So I got a new grandbaby coming. It's a baby girl, another baby girl, Palmer. they're going to name her. I can't remember the middle name, but it was just as cute. So let me see if I can, hang on. I thought I had a picture of Everly in here, but I guess I don't. So, oh, you know what I do have? I have some pictures. So this was the Jim Henson, part of the Jim Henson exhibition at that, and it was really well done. They had old videos that they had put together from him. He actually got his start using puppets in TV commercials. That's how he and his wife did it. Oops, I'm going to go to project folders. I'm going to go backwards. So that was Bert and Ernie, and that was from The Dark Crystal. And he hired this artist. He fell in love with the work of this one kind of warrior, charismatic style artist, and he hired him to do all the work. There's Jen and Kira from The Dark Crystal, and there's Red and let me see if I remember the name. Red and somebody from Fraggle Rock, and some of the videos from there, and that's a Sesame Street thing that I bought. So yeah, like Toby Renee says. So anyway, a lot of fun, and if you want a chance at winning the Muppets that I picked up in that store, they were expensive. This is a $21.95 gift, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a one of those cheap. Of course, I bought it in a museum store, which is always more expensive than anything else. Okay, so yeah, if you want to win it, go to last night's show and make a comment. The Friday night, first Friday show when Shelley's out with her badassery gang, which is what they call themselves. I don't know. They're actually a bunch of really nice ladies. All right, I'm going to play some music here, and while I'm doing that, I'll open up the phone lines. And you guys can call in and we can talk about stuff. Christy, call in and tell me. Actually, you know what I'll do, Christy? I will call you and we'll talk about this 13th secret thing. And if you want me to call you rather than waiting to get a free line, send me a text message and tell me to call you, tell me what your name is, what you want to talk about, and just send me a text message. That way I can just open up that line, all right? This is called Back to Portland by Track Tribe. See Zach Gusky in the room. Hey, Zach, did you see the March 5th Jenny Kyle Mysterious Writings Forrest Gets Mail, where Forrest said on Friday, what's today? Friday. So it would have been Thursday, Forrest said that his treasure is still where he hid it over 10 years ago. So you should tell your friend that. All right, K-Pro, I'm calling you. You can talk about the Secret 13th.
Hello.
Hi, good evening, Search Daughter. How are you doing?
I'm Doing great, Search Dad. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, what's this secret 13th cache?
Well, so here's the story as I know it, and it's caught a little bit on fire the last 24 hours. So Minotaur Marino is the one kind of in the middle of it. So
Yeah.
I've been going back and forth with him. So basically, the secret was put out in the 80s.
84.
And yeah, there was a group of, it looks like 3 individuals, and I might not get this exactly right, so some people in the room can correct me, that decided to do what they call a tribute. And they contacted, so all of the 12 have a plastered artifact that is in each of the locations.
Right.
Well, there was one additional one by this
inside
artist.
A plexiglass box.
Exactly. Yes. So there was one additional one, and these 3, what I think are super fans, went to that person and said, "Why don't you donate it to us, and we're going to do a tribute to Byron, who has now passed, and we're going to put it in a location. It looks like it's in the New Orleans area." And they developed they got the original artwork, and they got the cache, and they put it in the location.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like every hunt, it looks like they had different podcasts, and they were competing, and there was some drama. I'm not exactly sure what, but one of those 3 put up a detailed drawing of the original cache. And it made for some issues because he said he got it from one of the other 3. I don't know all the drama details, but basically he shouldn't have put up the detailed drawing information. He pulled it down off of Facebook within a day.
And how recently did this what you're describing take place? Oh, okay.
Yesterday. Wow. So then the other 2 got a little upset and said, "Hey, you put out some details that now is out there," and they basically kind of outed him of the group. So he decided to go and retrieve the artifact. And he said, "I still left the prize, which will be a jewel or something from Byron, but I'm keeping it, and it's on my wall, and basically don't care, guys," and put it up on Facebook that said, "I'm keeping it, and I'm not very happy with everyone." Well, the people that have spent many times going boots on the ground
to look for it
have lost their mind. Not in a bad way. They're very upset, saying, "Wait, some of us, that's all we want is this cache that's so important."
Right.
And so there's lots of talk, and the others are calling for him. Like, basically he knew where it was, so he went and retrieved something that was donated to the hunt because he knew where it was. And it just made me think of Forrest. 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead. I think this guy is taken. I don't know enough about it to know if there's more to the story, but I just know sure does seem like he went and took something that wasn't his. It was donated to the hunt, but he knew where it was, and he's going, "Hey guys, it's on my mantle." So,
which makes Forrest's point ever more valid, right? If more than one person knows about it, one of them's going to crack in some way,
Yep. Yeah, or go and take it themselves.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
So it's such a good, it'll be interesting to watch how it plays out.
Yeah.
Because some people are like, it's just the thrill of going to look at it. And some people are going, no, this was donated by the original person. This is not okay. They're asking them to weigh in, or Byron's widow to weigh in, and they haven't yet, which, I just think of Peggy, and I think, so there's a parallel here that will be interesting to watch, but there's some people pretty upset. So it goes to show this happens in many a hunts, the kind of backstories and drama and issues and details and all of that. So I thought it was interesting.
Well, when Sassy talks about her experience with a David Blaine treasure, it was kind of the same thing. They were flaming her because they claimed she just got in on the last 2 clues, and everybody knew where it was. And then she was sued by several people, and it was only that the book publisher had promised the winner that they would handle any suits. We don't have, as I mentioned to, who was it that called last night? We don't have that kind of security, right?
Right.
If we find the treasure and we get sued, we have to pay an attorney to protect us from those suits. And there is no doubt in my mind that there are going to be suits
Well,
levied
and
against the.
if Sassy got sued, I think it was by either 3 or 4, and this hunt, I already can say these 5 people will, let alone all the people that we don't even know. Like, I didn't know Hanson, I didn't know some of the others. I'm thinking there's going to be 10, 20, 30, however many, and then the entire, the amount that you've taken on is gone. So
Right.
I agree
Yeah.
with you. I mean, Sassy was lucky that Random House took like the legality piece on.
Right.
I do not believe Forrest has put in for that provision, so it just says even more so. I do think notify the community through, I mean, you've gone through this, but
Right.
this shows even more. But it's fascinating because here's what I thought, and I was talking to a searcher earlier when Forrest was thinking about calling off the hunt, when a searcher had passed, and then he just came out with some additional information for
Right.
us
To protect everybody.
I wonder if he's watching now saying, okay, so somebody basically started a hunt, and then for whatever reason, drama, whatever, doesn't even matter, went out and retrieved part of it, and it's sitting on his mantle. Now there's a little bit of an issue because this person I don't think actually owned. He it was something donated for him to put in, but I wonder, like, if Forrest went out because he just got sick of all the crazies and put that treasure box right back in his vault, could there be some legalities of searchers are saying I've spent thousands of dollars, etc. So it'll be, I don't think there's precedence here, so I just think it'll be interesting to watch it through.
I think it is far. I'm trying to remember the law that covers that, and the law that covers that is, and I'm sure that Joel would know what it is, but the reason I got into the law because I discovered this law doesn't protect us if there is no treasure, right? He can write.
Well, it's called the 7%.
Yeah.
Law.
No. It's a law that basically says he can say whatever he wants, and if you believe him, that's your problem. It's the equivalent of that. That's what the now. On the other hand, I don't think that would be true if he had a treasure, retrieved it, and then said, I think he would open himself up to not only probably suits for the amount of money that's been invested in. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have put money into in various ways, buying books on, and I think he does open himself up to liability, if not just the crazy people who are going to show up on his doorstep. I think that's where it gets really crazy.
Well, and that's the difference here is this individual, I don't even know his name. He went to the originator with what I think is a verbal, maybe written contract of, I'm asking for you to donate this so we can do a hunt. And now, and whether he did it premeditated or not, because some people are saying, is this what you did all along? Or are you doing it for press or whatever? He then put it out there. It's out there for a few months. Now he's taken it back and it's sitting on his mantle.
Right.
And he was a super fan beforehand. Was this an elaborate scheme to get an item that he really wanted? And others have had damages because they've gone out boots on the ground so many times. So so this one's a little bit different just because it wasn't his item. This was another person's item. He's saying it's his because he was helping organize it. And I guess the others are like, they came out with a statement to say, we didn't know he was going to do that. We encourage him to either put it back or, to
or
make it right or donate it.
Yeah. Find another
well, they say give it back
place
to the donor.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think that could end up, if there are people that could prove that they had invested time, money, and effort into looking for this thing, and could prove further that it was removed from a location that they were close to, I think he opens himself up. I can't imagine he didn't think of this,
I don't know the people well enough. I wasn't familiar enough. I have gone boots on the ground for the North Carolina cache. I wasn't involved with the 13th cache because I believe it's in, or believed to be in, or something, New Orleans. That was far enough away from me that I didn't get involved. But that I will tell you, our friend Minotaur Marino is the one. He has posted many a times on the different 13 cache and secret of this is not okay. I've invested too much and I'm not okay with this. And he's asking Jenny Kyle to weigh in, many others to weigh in, because he's like, this is not right. At least give it back or you should not personally gain under the notion of what Jenny put out originally on her site, which was this was donated for a community of people.
Right.
He was almost like the security guard, and the security guard just, took
Took
the
item.
bankroll and now is home with the bankroll and kicking up his feet and kind of smiling. So,
Well,
anyway.
the other thing about this is based on what I've read so far. None of these treasures, other than the intrinsic value that comes along with something that's been in the ground and has a story associated with it, don't have the intrinsic value that Fenn's treasure has. They're not worth millions of dollars. They're
Right.
basically plaster of Paris objects that have been sculpted into something that fills the clues, placed in a plexiglass container to protect it from the elements. But there's no valuables in there. The only valuable is this plaster of Paris. And I realized it when the piece in Boston broke up so easily. I mean, it was just painted plaster of Paris. It wasn't like you're.
But the only thing is, you do get an item worth about $1,500 if you're able to show that to Byron's widow.
Still, I agree, and that was going to make that point. Even the peridot I think it was an 8-carat peridot, is just about $900, right? So it's nowhere near the estimated value of Fenn's treasure if you were just to sell it off in pieces, or the value that you could get by putting it at auction, or the value you could get by leasing it to a museum or something like that.
Well, even more so. So the one that I went to North Carolina, many people thought it was in the same location and it's illegal to dig.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to break the law. So I went to the officials and said, I would like to dig here and I would like to get permission. I went through the proper process. And they are requiring some specific professionals to be able to shadow to make sure that the grass gets put back, etc. That costs around $5,000.
Right.
Well, so it's going to cost me $5,000
to recover a stone.
Yeah, that's $1,500. And I don't believe back in the 80s he thought this through in the same way that I think Forrest has. So unfortunately, people are damaging. They're now putting up cameras. The location I was in has had many people in it.
Yeah.
To the point that, it's definitely an issue. And I actually made that case in the application to say, you are going to continue to have such additional costs. Provide someone with me. I will bring an expert in the field, but I can't pay them because we're talking about a $1,500 cash, and you're asking for thousands of dollars of support. But that's the one thing I don't think. That's the one piece I don't enjoy about The Secret is I believe you don't take off the table, or in the ones that have already been out there, you would have to break the law if you don't get permission, and it's cost prohibitive. To get permission.
Well, and I don't think he expected. There was no sense, as you read the backstory on all of this, there was no sense that he expected it to last any more than a couple of years. It was very David Blaine-ish. There was a point at which, after a year, David Blaine was actually getting kind of frustrated. Like, find the damn thing and I'll give you another clue. And I think that was kind of Byron Price's idea. Let's sell all the books, and in a couple of years, everybody will find this stuff. And as usual, I think they overestimate our ability to think like them. These are all very, the guys that come up with these things are all very creative thinkers, David Blaine included, Forrest Fenn included. And I think their expectation is that somehow or the other, we're just going to, I know what Forrest is saying right there. I'll figure it out and go there. And we can't. We don't. So there's a good chance.
And that's what, when Mike and I do the little hunts that we do, it was amazing to me. And you made the suggestion, anybody in this should do a little hunt of their own. Mm-hmm. It was amazing to me. There was one part, I'm like, everyone's going to get this like right off. So I'm going to make this part hard.
Yeah.
And I've done 4 or 5 of them now, where it is amazing to me. The part that I thought was so easy, they're going to get in 10 seconds. Weeks later, no one's gotten.
Right.
And the parts I thought was hard, some little mastermind gets it right off because I'm trying to be clever and they know that cipher or whatever.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
And Mike said the same thing. We're just amazed at when you look at not the collective minds, you look at thousands of people looking at this differently. That's my biggest issue with the Forrest Fenn hunt. I think we've had thousands, hundreds of thousands look over the 10 years at some level.
Right.
how is he being that clever?
Right.
And so he's obviously really thought about something that none of us
So
have.
this is a conclusion I came to literally last night after I finished the show. Here's the conclusion I'd come to, that and I'm sure Mike knows the name for something like this, the hive mind. You know, the simple fact of the matter is the people that came closest to finding that treasure did it early on, and there is a very good chance they knew Forrest well enough to have picked up the book at Collected Works and said, "Oh yeah, I get this." After it exploded in terms of popularity as a result of the Hemisphere magazine's article, the hive mind went to work. And the effect of the hive mind is to take whatever those early searchers knew about Forrest and make it progressively more complex. And every year we layer upon last year's complexities with this year's new complexities, right? The lead searcher. Let's add the lead searcher into the mix because he knows where it is. Let's add the scrapbooks into the mix because they have to mean something. And so the people that discovered this that were as close as they were may not have known it, but they couldn't have gotten to where they got without knowing something, right? They had to know something to get to that point. It wasn't just happenstance that they ended up 200 feet from the treasure. And that was the point before there was no hive mind. Everybody was on their own. There wasn't any forums and YouTube channels, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And the effect of that, and I think that's why he repeatedly says you got to simplify it, meaning you got to go back to 2012 and figure out why those guys did it so easily, right? Without pursuing it any further. Their mistake was not in locating where warm waters halt or canyon down. Their mistake was not following through with the rest of the clues where they walked right past it or they didn't know that they were that close or all of those things. I don't think any of us have had the luxury of feeling that way, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, get lots of emails. To me...
Well, I think the best video you've ever done, even though there's been some good ones, is, gosh, this must have been 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 2, 3, however many, not recently, where you said, what if Forrest, no, it has to be more than 2 years, because I had not come out on any of the forums, and I was actually upset at this video at first, and Forrest told me to chill out. But it was, what if Forrest passed the day after the Collected Works bookstore signing?
Where would we be?
We didn't have all this other stuff. Has it helped us or hurt us?
Right.
And I was so offended. That's why I wrote for it. So I'm like, this Toby person is saying you're going to die. And I don't think that's respectful. And he's like, Christy, I'm going to die. So he's like, it's a really good, he enjoyed that video. We went back and forth about it. And so it was one of those. And I think about that all the time. I just talked with the searcher earlier today. And I'm like, okay, so if this was just TTOTC in the poem, if Forrest had gone that day, because that's all he was planning on putting out, where do we get that?
Right.
And I think that's the most critical thing we need to do. Not that other things don't have subtle hints.
Right.
But literally, we're talking about a needle in a haystack. There's 60 million words out there, and now there's 5 needles in those 60 million words.
Right, and every year there are more millions of words added to all of this. I actually, that video that you're talking about, it is like, what if Forrest Fenn had died on December 20th, 2010, something like that.
Yep.
And I actually wrote him an email. And I said, Forrest, I'm about to release a video that is entitled this, and I want to make sure you're aware of it. And his response was, well, let's just be grateful I'm still here. Go ahead. So he gave me permission to do it. But that was the theory. What if he had died at the end of 2010? Where would we be left? We would be left with the material that those folks in 2012 got led them to being within 200 feet of that treasure.
Yep.
That's
Well,
where we'd
and
be.
you know how Forrest and I are back and forth when
Yeah.
I said, and he's being so disrespectful, and he's like, that I'm gonna die one day. Do you not think that's gonna happen? Like he totally zung me, and I'm like, but it's not respectful to talk. And he's like, so is he saying he's gonna murder? Like,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
Caper. I mean, he was. If we would have been face to face, he would have been like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It was funny. It made me even because some people asked me when we did the show of what happens when Forrest Fenn passes, and people said the same thing, and I just wanted to go,
No.
come on, guys, it's the same thing. And,
Right.
you know, we're not saying, you know, we want him to die.
We don't have
tomorrow.
any desire. We would like him to live long and prosper
Yes.
as long as we can, as we all do. The simple fact of the matter is we all die. We're all in the process of dying, and he's closer than some of us. Not as close as some of the others of us, right? I mean, he could live another 10 years for all we know. He could outlive both of us, right?
Right.
So.
And so it was. I mean, I consistently go back to, okay, if it was that show had more of it, like out of all the shows, that's the one that stands out to me over the years. So everybody should go back and look at that and just consider if his plan initially was the poem TTOTC and what he said at Collected Works, what then? Like, what should we be focusing on? You know. So anyway, I don't even want to steal the thunder of it because it was just succinct to the point. You guys hit the right points. It's great. So I constantly go back to
Mary Catherine. What's her name? That did the interview on the same day as the Collected Works book signing would have had the most important interview of the chase because it would have been the only interview of the chase.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll let others get to chatting with you, but thanks for, interesting on the 13th and interesting discussion. We're going to have a fun search here coming up.
Okay. I found that I'm going to post this in the room. Hang on.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for that
Bye-bye.
input on the secret.
Yep.
Ciao.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So I'm going to post the link to this video. It's called What If Forrest Fenn Had Died on November 25th, 2010. And I can't remember why I picked November 25th. Anyway, I'll post it. Go check out this video. It was a fun video to do. And I did ask his permission. I called him and let him know. I didn't call him. I wrote him and let him know in advance, and he was okay with it. He done type a scenario before you and K-Pro talked about him dying. CJ Nick. When did you send that, CJ? So take a look at that video. It's entitled "What If Forrest Fenn Had Died on November 25th, 2010." And it kind of described what we would have had he done that. We'd have the thrill of the chase. We would have the poem in the thrill of the chase, and we had the interview that Mary Catherine did from Radio Cafe in Santa Fe. That's it. That's what you'd have. There'd be no Moby Dickens. There would be no Too Far to Walk. There would be no Once Upon a While. There would be no 244 scrapbooks. There would be none of that. Yeah, Craig, it was something like that. I couldn't figure out why I'd selected November 25th to do it, for him to have passed. But I did, like I said, I did ask his permission. I didn't ask his permission. I wrote him and let him know that I was going to do it. He didn't have a problem with it. All right. So I'm going to play some musica. This one's called Lonesome Avenue. So this is from Greg in Indiana. He says, I just wanted to recommend that you give a listen to the Secret podcast episode on the Boston Solution. It's a good podcast done by guys who've been working on the Secret for decades. So who knows, maybe after somebody finds this treasure, we can go work all the secret treasures, because there's still apparently 9 of them out there, excluding this number 13 that Christy was talking about. Toby, I'm 2,500 miles from my solve, and I will fly out for boots on the ground. If I found the chest, how do I get it back home? Can't take it on the plane. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to go through security. But what I would do in that case is I would contact one of the security transportation companies like Wells Fargo and have them do it. They're insured. It's going to cost you some money, but they can transport it across the nation, and their work is insured, and of course they're bonded, so they can't lose it or take it or let anybody know that's there. I wouldn't drive with it across country. I would turn it over to one of the security transportation companies. Let's see. Ken in Oklahoma. Toby, I've been watching old Fenn videos. This was one with curly gray-haired writer Forrest and another guy. I think you filmed it. Forrest was telling stories of crazy searchers. Talked about a guy who said he had the treasure. Forrest said, I'm going to get it in my car and go see. Forrest says the guy was waiting for his car to follow him. The panel starts laughing, and the gray-haired guy says to Forrest, you should have just kept driving. Forrest laughed, I should have driven to Montana. They all laughed. Seems like he wouldn't mention Montana if it was there. That was Collected Works, October of 2013. The other 2 people on the dais with him were his friends Michael McGarity and Doug Preston. And I did shoot that. Well, so Joel called but didn't leave a voicemail. Let's call him and see what he's got to say. Let's see if he'll answer. Just a few minutes ago.
Mr. Younis.
Dr. Lewicki, how are you doing, sir?
What's going on?
Not a whole bunch. I just figured we've been missing each other all day. I better put an extra effort into making some contact here.
Well, wonderful. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. It is good.
Hello to everyone in the room.
It is good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you for a while. Maybe you've been on some other channels, but we haven't talked in a long time.
I've been busy reevaluating the chase. I'd kind of stepped away for a while.
I do recall that. Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun looking at it from different angles and seeing different things, and then you start making some connections that you haven't made, and then that's exciting again. So then that's a lot of fun.
Well, good. What are you coming up with? Just generally speaking, you don't have to turn in your favorite state or anything like that. But
yeah. So what I've been trying to do is look at the big picture. I've been trying to understand why Forrest has done this as a way of trying to determine if there are some elements in the thrill of the chase that would, once you understand why Forrest has done it, help you understand the clues and lead you to the chest. So the whole stanza, so why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek the answers? I already know I've done it tired.
Yeah.
And now I'm weak. What's he talking about? What are the answers? And even really, what's the trove? Is it the chest full of gold and Chinese jade masks,
right?
Pre-Columbian Tyrone and sinew necklaces, or is it something else maybe? So that's what I've been doing, and it's been fun.
So
I'm not like going Davio deep or anything, but I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. Only Davio can do that. That works for Davio. I'm not sure that it would work for everybody else.
That guy's a freaking genius, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. He wants me to I think part of him would like it if I'd buy into his theories, but 3 minutes into the conversation, he's over my head. I've lost him.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Not
like,
I've lost him. He's lost me, and he doesn't
it's,
know it. You know.
yeah.
We had
No,
that conversation once where I'm going like I lose track after the first minute and a half. You know.
yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one that can't keep
Yeah.
up with him.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I know there was a point at which part of you stepped back, not only because of your search experiences, but I think I don't want to say you were getting pressure from your family. Wasn't there a point at which your family was kind of saying maybe it's time to step back? Was that part of it as well?
No, huh?
Oh, okay, all right.
No. My wife is still as into the chase as she has been.
Yeah.
We still bounce ideas off of each other every
Mhm.
once in a while. I part of it was just my work schedule and
Right.
having too much to do, you
Yeah.
know. So that's been a big part of it.
So what kind of
And
plans have you made for the upcoming search season, if any?
none.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't have any plans to go boots on the ground or anything. Right now, what I want to do is I want to go meet Forrest. I've never actually met him,
Oh, really?
and no, yeah, I live, in northern Minnesota. It's
Right.
a lot farther to get down to where he is than where I've typically gone boots on the ground,
Right.
and I just haven't made it down there.
Well, should you, of course, decide to do that, make sure that you let us know, and we can have a get together at my place. I'd love to meet
You
you
know I
and,
will.
and your
Yeah.
family. And
Yeah.
Cynthia is 10 minutes away, and of course, Shelley and Kevin are just a few minutes further than that. So we could put
Sure.
something together if you're coming in this direction. And I would have to conclude, or at least assume, that if Forrest were to hear from you that you're going to be down in this direction, that he would give you an audience. I think he knows you well enough to know that that's perfectly reasonable.
He might know me well enough to say no.
No, I don't think so. I can't imagine that would be the conclusion. I think he wants to talk to the people who have thought about his treasure hunt, and the Michael Hools and the Joel Lewickis of the world who think about this a lot, and not necessarily. And I think he can trust that you're not like he did with Michael or our friend. What's her name? The digital. No, digital nomad. I can't remember her name now.
Who's
Shelley.
digital nomad?
Digital nomad is the pretty English lady that travels all over the world, doing nothing but making videos about her travels. And she makes a
Oh,
little bit of money from YouTube, but she makes most of her money from Udemy. She's the one that turned us on to Udemy.
mm,
And because
that's
she
right. Yep.
contacted us, she's the one, and she contacted me and she said, "We're going to be in Santa Fe. What are the chances I'll get to meet Forrest Fenn?" And I said, "Send him an email and attach one of your videos. He'll meet you, I'm sure." And it was just because she's got that British accent and she's cute in her own way. She's not cute. I mean, she's articulate, she's educated, and she travels the world doing this. And this just happens to be one of the things that she did. But I
So
think,
she's literally the complete opposite of me.
well, in a sense, yeah, you're from Minnesota and you're not half as cute as she is, but you're credible
Or
in
British
in
or
your own way.
articulate.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find Digital Nomad Girl is, I think, her. She and Shelley, but she's the one that, like I said, she makes a couple $100,000 a year from her Udemy courses. And what she does is she waits for people to contact her, and people as she in her travels, and they'll say, "I heard you were going to be in Guatemala." Well, I'm an expert in Guatemala purse weaving or whatever, whatever it
Sure.
is. And she helps them put their Udemy course together, and then she makes half of whatever they do. So that's how she makes her income. Is literally there is some from there is some from YouTube, but the travel freedom significant part of her income comes from her Udemy courses. But here, let me show you what got Forrest's attention.
So I was watching you on my phone, and then you called my phone, so I can't
Oh,
see anything
okay, all
you're
right.
doing. I'm just gonna trust that you're actually showing everyone else in the room, and I'll look at it later.
Oh, okay, all right. No worries. So here's the digital nomad girl, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one that she contacted me. We had met her before, and then she contacted me and say she wanted to meet with Forrest. How could I do that? And I said, take one of these here videos. You know, your 4 days.
So you need a logo.
Take your 4 days in Budapest, and send that to Forrest and say you're going to be in Santa Fe.
Nice.
He'll be back in touch.
So, can I pick your brain? In
Absolutely.
Front of all these people that are watching
There may
right
not
now?
be much coming out of it, but let's try.
Well, join the club. So, I've been thinking about like the big picture stuff of why Forrest has done this.
Yeah.
And have you read Douglas Preston's book, The Codex?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I didn't read it. I did get the Audible version of it, and I have listened to the Audible version. And
okay.
I hope he's not watching. I wasn't impressed. I mean, it was okay.
Did he read it, or did someone else?
Pardon me?
With his reading, or like someone else read it, or what?
No, it was somebody else's reading of it. And
Yeah.
the storyline is kind of standard, you know, pulp fiction fare. I don't know how else to describe it. I haven't. Now, at the same time, you know, he's a New York Times top 10 fiction writer consistently, so I'm not going to be critical of it.
Sure.
And I thought it was an okay story, but I thought it was I thought it was an okay story. Anyway, why do you ask?
Well, okay. So that book was published, and I'm going off memory here, so the room can crucify me if they want. But I want to say it was published in 2003 or 2006. I think
2003 sounds familiar. Let me see.
Right. So obviously Forrest had told Douglas his plans much before the publishing of The Thrill of the Chase.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of license that Douglas took in reshaping the story and the characters and all of that. Right. There's no similarities there.
Right. Fenn doesn't have any sons. He doesn't have.
Right. So pretty different.
So it was December 8th, 2003.
Okay. Yeah. So I haven't completely lost my mind.
Yeah.
The father character in the Codex story, and spoiler alert for people in the room. Sorry, I'm not trying to wreck the book for you, but he's a wealthy art collector and just genuine and general antiquities collector.
Right.
And he's done so much, right? So in the book, he is dying.
Right.
And so he takes all of his stuff and he goes back to where he had this first big find.
His special place.
He goes back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And the sons, they were able to like figure out, oh, he's here, right? Like there was no big surprise. The reason he did it was he wanted the kids to walk in his footsteps, right? To go where he had gone, because he didn't feel like he'd done a good job educating them.
Right.
Do you think there's a sense in which Forrest has that Douglas got that idea from Forrest,
or vice versa?
That Forrest wanted us to walk in his footsteps. The father in the story is not that concerned about the treasure or his kids getting the treasure, the inheritance that they were supposed to get.
Right.
He feels like he had failed them, and that this was his way of educating them. Do you think that Forrest maybe is in the same boat? Not necessarily with his. I think he's happy with his kids and grandkids, but he does want them to know who he is and to walk in his steps. Does that make any sense?
So that he might be thinking of us as his children. I don't get the sense that he felt like he needed to challenge his family members.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that he was I'm not saying it correlates to his children.
Yeah.
I think that Forrest wants to teach us, the people that are looking for it, the lessons that he learned. And in the preface to the book, he says, if anyone over the age of 12 doesn't see a little of themselves in these stories that I'm telling about myself, perhaps they deserve another turn.
Right.
So he's trying to teach us through his stories and experiences the things that he learned, much the same way that his father really taught him through these probing questions or stories and things that made him think. I think that Forrest maybe wants to emulate his father in that respect.
So we did a video, and I can't remember when it was. It was way back in the olden days, as I call it.
Back when I
And
was moderators.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was based on the concept that if you took each one of the stories in the book, there was a moral. It was like each of them was a parable.
Okay.
And at the end of them, you could say, "Here's what I should be learning from this." And they tended to be moral rather than I should learn that visiting Yellowstone is something important. It wasn't like that. That there was a moral parable in each of the stories that was supposed to provide us some sort of lesson similar to the one that he had learned as a result. Right. But then you read one of the stories like the one about the biddies, No Place for Biddies. You wonder what's the moral of that story? What are you trying to tell me? We got all of them. We got all of the chapters.
So just off the cuff.
Yeah.
With No Place for Biddies, I think he's talking about youth being wasted on the young.
Yeah.
And how embarrassed he was and angry he was at those two women. And I think it's contrasted with as he grew and I think matured to see the value in people. He had no value for those two women.
Yeah.
He didn't have he could care less if they died, right? Which is a very strong thing to say.
Right.
And that is certainly not Forrest anymore. And I think so that happened before he was 13, because I think some very substantive, formative things happened when he was 13.
Right. So you said two things that I think are interesting. One is that Forrest wants us to walk in his footsteps, and the other is that each of the stories has provides us something that could be learned. I may have confused the two. Are you of the opinion that he wants us, that he wrote them for the purpose of teaching us something?
Well, when I asked him about the illustration of the man standing in the cut down forest, his response was, I was trying to make a point about the environment. Because I asked the illustrator, what on earth? And he said, I drew what Forrest asked me to draw. So Forrest, asked him to draw a guy standing in this field of stumps looking up at the moon with a bird in a nest. Now, if you can tell me exactly the point that Forrest is trying to make about the environment, I'm all ears. I have no idea.
See, I think that's the fundamental problem that we have with this entire effort, and that is he may look at that image and say that is an expression of my feelings about the state of the environment or environmental activism or whatever it is. And I've looked at that image, dozens of times, and there's a bit of metaphysicalness to it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I would never conclude that it is a statement on the state of the environment.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of one of the fundamental problem. Hang on. Hey, Gardner, Kansas, I know you're calling. I will call you back. We're still on this call, okay? And I think that's kind of the problem that I expressed. I don't know. I think it's been longer than a month that we don't think like Forrest Fenn. Like,
Yeah.
look, we'd have to go back and say, so what does this mean? What does this picture mean to you? What is the little boys playing marbles? What is the teachers with ropes? Some of them might be obvious, but literally, if without you telling me, he said that was his statement on the environment, I would have never imagined that.
Yeah. This is coming from Forrest, who says imagination is more important than knowledge, quoting Einstein, right?
Right.
Well, one, Forrest is the kind of guy that can, off the cuff, quote Einstein,
Right.
and can list random illustrators from books when he was a child.
Right.
Right. So the way that, and Forrest remembers certain figures and numbers the same way my father does, right? It's almost like a savant thing.
Right.
Like, I don't know how they do it, but there's some people that just fall into that category. I'm not one of those people.
Right.
Forrest is, right? And but he's also the guy that when he says, as a small child, waves at a guy riding a horse in front of his house, "Hiya, cowboy." The cowboy comes off his horse, comes over, hits him in the nose and drops him to the ground and rides away.
Yeah.
And he says, and Forrest says, "What can I learn from this?" And he says, "That's when I came up with the rule, don't make the alligator mad until you've crossed the river."
Well, it's one thing to make an alligator mad. It's another thing to say,
Come on.
howdy, cowboy. How's that? Sounds to me like the cowboy had a problem.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've been looking at Forrest rules, right?
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I don't think anyone's got like his list of 109
no,
rules.
I have asked him. I asked him.
I've asked him too.
Yeah. After when Davio published the 2006 Cody museum interview, he mentions them in there. He tells them, and I have 109 rules. And I wrote him and I said, is there any way you could provide? I'd like to share them with the community. I tried to be noble about it, as opposed to I want to figure out what you think.
Right.
And he said no. He was afraid that they would just be misinterpreted, and he used another word, misinterpreted, and it wasn't bastardized. But it was
misconstrued.
Yeah, misconstrued. Yeah. It was the more subtle version of that. And I know other people. I know Christy asked him for them too. So he hasn't.
And I can understand that because they're his rules.
Yeah.
They're not even things that he gathered from other people. They were his, like the things that he wrote down. And every month, he would set a kind of reminder for himself on the first of the month to sit down and review those and reposition them, right? So maybe something became more important. But one of his main ones was be positive.
Right.
Right. And what a great encouragement for people and the world that we live in, right? Like, how many people need to hear that? I think that there's things that he wants to teach people and to communicate that, man, we really need to hear.
Right.
But I'll leave you with this, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
I was doing I got caught in like a rabbit hole, and I was, I ended up looking up some things on the equinoxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we just had the spring, or we're coming up on the equinox for the spring.
Right. Spring and fall equinox, summer and winter solstice.
Yeah. So the equinox is when the light and the dark are equal.
Right.
So the spring equinox is when the light starts to win out over the darkness, and the fall equinox is when the darkness starts to win out over the light.
Right.
Okay. The spring equinox happens around March, and I'm going to mess up the dates here, but around March 22nd usually.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's around the 78th, 79th, 80th day of the year, depending on if it's a leap year. And he says he hid the treasure when he was 79 or 80. And then he says that he put 265 coins in the chest. He's very specific on that number.
Right.
The fall equinox happens on the 265th day.
Oh.
And so you've got these kind of two important numbers, right? And it kind of bookends summer, right? Like it starts
Right.
when daylight starts to
Yeah.
win and when it starts to lose. And Forrest feels very fond about summer. And his summers were spent in a very specific place.
Yeah, summer is definitely his season. He's not a fall
Yeah.
guy. He's not a
Yeah.
let's go out and see the autumn colors kind of guy.
And he said that in Flywater that when June, July, and August seemed to go so quickly in Yellowstone, he wondered if maybe summer missed its turn there.
Yeah.
And when the ducks started to fly south, he knew that dark days for him were just ahead.
Right.
He said that in the summer, his heart is in Yellowstone. And we know he hid the treasure in the summer. So why is it not in Yellowstone?
Well, I can't. I of course don't have the answer to that. I don't know that it's not in Yellowstone. I don't search in Yellowstone because I think, in my case, that's just a little too on the nose, But I wanted to ask: did you read that most recent Forrest Gets Mail on Jenny's site?
Forrest Gets Mail.
Forrest Gets Mail. It was a question from a woman who her name was Sue, and she asks, some of the members of the community are saying that you said that brown trout have nothing to do with the Homer Brown.
Yeah.
And he responds by saying, I never said that.
He never said that.
Right.
Yeah.
And he adds the following statement. And he says, the treasure is still where I put it. Something like, I'm messing up the quote. I should probably go get it. But it was the equivalent of the treasure. He was kind of confirming that all the people claiming, especially this week, that they've found the treasure. He was saying, nope, still out there. But the interesting thing was the last few words in the sentence where he said, the treasure, and this was March, the treasure is still out there where I left it more than 10 years ago.
More than 10 years ago.
More than 10 years ago.
Well, that'd be 2009.
Exactly. So put that in your smoking pipe and think about it.
Interesting.
Because that means that would not have been the summer in which he was 79 or 80. That would have been the summer in which he was 70, 78 or 79.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is interesting. Although if it was a recent response, well, I won't say that.
It was a recent response.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
And he had to think about it. I mean, when you think about it, he knows it's March. So when you say more than 10 years ago, I can't imagine that he would say it serendipitously.
Yeah.
Right. That he had to think about it. Well, let's see, it's been more than 10 years now.
Okay, well, I've been on here for 25 minutes, and your room has to be going crazy saying, get him off the phone.
They're not. You know what they're doing? They're doing what
they're all talking amongst themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's somebody that really is annoying, and then they start giving me super chat to throw him out. So the good news is they haven't given me any super chat to throw you out.
Okay, this is my filibuster. Super chat to get me off the phone. So, okay, real quick though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to hear what your thought is. Why did Forrest do this? Big picture for you. Why did Forrest do this?
I've always believed that getting us into the outdoors and the kids away from the little texting machines was secondary to having his name live as long as possible. As long as as long as that treasure remains unfound, and news media are talking about Forrest Fenn.
I couldn't agree more.
So, because that's why I do it. I mean, why would anybody do anything like this. There is a part of me that wants to go back to 2010, where he publishes 1,000 copies of the book and he puts them in collected works, and all his friends go and buy it. And I thought about the vision of his friends meeting up with him for lunch at the Pink Adobe and saying, "Oh, Forrest, you crazy old coot, did you really do that?" So he could say yes. So there was part of it was the instant notoriety of having done something that that was just a little bit crazy, right?
Yep. And he knew it.
Yeah, and he knew it.
When he walked away and he laughed at himself, he said, "Forrest Fenn,
did you just do that?" Right? So he knew he was going to meet up with all these friends. They were going to buy the book and they were going to tease him, and maybe some came close. I'm willing to bet that the 200-foot searchers were people who were, if not familiar with Forrest, maybe his friends, right? Maybe people who bought one of the first 1,000 copies of that book. But I don't think that was the intent. I think that was the mischievous Forrest Fenn having fun with all his friends.
Yeah.
I think the rational Forrest Fenn wants this to last 1,000 years, even though the planet may not make it that far. But, you know, I love his story about the gentleman who carved the Rosetta Stone. And when it was found, and he tells that story about, don't you think he's just looking down on there and thinking about how proud he is of himself to have made that last this long? That story, and I think he tells it at Moby Dickens, but that story has always stuck with me.
He's said it a lot.
Yeah. So that's always been my impression of it, that this is a way to make Forrest Fenn a topic of conversation far into the future, depending on how long we as humanity, as the species, can keep from destroying itself.
It's a way to prolong his act on stage.
Yeah. And what better? You know, he's comfortable. It's not like he needs any more money. He's got the money he needs to live comfortably throughout the rest of his life, leave some for his children and grandchildren. What could be better, short of being a billionaire, right? And I don't think what's that old line he says? It's not how much money you have, it's whether you have enough, right? He has enough. So
he said he has all that he wants.
Yeah.
He doesn't want very much.
Yeah. And I think that the next best thing to that is, how long can I make my name last? The longer that treasure remains unfound, the longer his name is highlighted.
So I do agree with you on that point, but I would challenge your thinking on it if that's all of it, because it's not just the notoriety. It's not, because he talks about that in his book. He says John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, they wanted the same thing, right? But it's not just that you're known, it's what you're known for. And he uses those negative examples, I think, to point that out.
Right.
Because he wants to be known for some very noble reasons.
Well, and I'm sure I agree with you on that. I think the problem, of course, is that in the process of doing this, human nature being human nature, I think he underestimated, one, how big this would get, and two, how the complexities that would result of its growth and expansion, right?
Sure.
Because he felt like the 1,000 people that he was aware of were 1,000 rational people, right? And the simple fact that I said this in my show last night, I just read an article in Psychology Today that basically concluded that 28% of the population in the United States is somehow or the other experiences some form of mental disease or the other. Well, he's lucky that it's only 7. He figures based on his emails it's 7%. The facts tell us different. And
Did you say 28%?
28%.
Oh, good heavens!
Yeah, exactly.
And we're worried about coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Because imagine if what happens after coronavirus disables the nation in the way that it has. I'm not a big fan of it. I put China in that same category as North Korea, Russia, and Iran. They are not our friends, right? But you have to admire how they took this problem as seriously as they did.
They shut it down.
They shut it down. They built two 1,800 bed hospitals in
that's arguable.
Well, no, you got to give them credit for having built that, having done that. They built
some of the pictures that they posted were of their stock photos of hospitals in other
Oh
places.
yeah, no. I went back and I researched it. They did bring up that. As a matter of fact, there is a great. I don't know if you're a fan of Richard. He's an NBC foreign correspondent, but he does a show on Sunday nights that's called, and it's based on his work. Tomorrow night. It's 10 o'clock Eastern time. Is that right? 10 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock our time, and he's doing a coronavirus. He's been to China. He's been to Korea. He's been to Japan. So take a look at it.
And that's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yeah, Sunday night. Yeah. And
so,
I admire his work. He's a great journalist.
Quick PSA here: wash your hands with soap for 30 seconds. Don't touch your face or mouth.
Yeah.
And try to maintain space between other people.
Right.
And that's just for the normal flu that we have here. Don't worry about coronavirus. Just in general, do that.
Yeah. And one of the things I went today, I stopped by Harbor Freight because I know Harbor Freight carries masks for painting and other purposes. They're not really designed as health things in the purest sense. But I stopped by and the wall was bare of every possible variation, from the cheap $1 a mask to the $69, sandblasting masks. They were gone. And I said, any masks in the back? And he says, no, they've been gone for a week.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyway, always a pleasure. So,
did you
apparently,
get any super chats to get rid of me?
No, everybody is just they're just talking at the thing,
people.
and we've gone up another 20 people in terms of audience. So something's going on. We're just going to keep you. Why don't you and I just talk for the next 4 hours?
I'm gonna need another Moscow Mule.
All right. Well, thank you, Joel. I'm happy to hear from you as usual, and please call in more often. It's always a ball talking to you.
Yeah, it's always fun. Sorry that I missed your call earlier, but I'm glad we got to connect here with 230 of our closest friends.
Yeah. Well, they're having fun with it, so I'm glad you showed up.
All right, Tobes. Have a good night.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Gardner, Kansas, we're going to call you back because you tried really, really hard several times.
I'm sorry, the person you are trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been...
Gardner, I tried, Gardner. I tried. So, actually, I think we need to open up the phone lines. Wait. We've got some... he sounds like John Malkovich. Was that Joel? So that was sent, within the time that we were speaking to Joel. Ron Martin says, hello, Toby. It's Ron Martin, your Intel brother. If you want to talk a little terrain analysis, give me a call. I do. Ron is the guy that I've been talking to about building an app with a map, or a map app. Toby asked Joel, the person supposed to be at interview for Forrest and Douglas for the K-Pro doc. Ask Joel who the person that was supposed to be the interviewer for Forrest and Douglas for the K-Pro documentary. Christy, you and I both know the answer to that question. Let me see. Whoa. Let's see. Ken in Oklahoma. Toby, I've been watching old... Oh, no, we already read that. Oh, wait. Ken in Oklahoma says, Toby, I've been watching old Fenn videos. This was one with... Oh, no, we did answer that. Okay, Ken in Oklahoma. Has anyone determined what the bird sitting in the moon in the drawing might mean? Well, apparently, according to Joel, after speaking with Fenn about it, it's his statement on the state of the environment. Ken in Oklahoma, I have to disagree about Forrest and the Biddy stories. Fenn today, he seems to me to still carry the burden of worrying about what people think of him, like the borders, with the salesman loudly announcing his purchase, but I have never met him. Ken in Oklahoma, if I'm motivated If motivated by legacy, why not Fenn Museum or real feature film? All things that consider. We're a small audience because those require maintenance. If you do a museum or produce a feature film, although I don't think a feature film would have done it, when you start thinking about museums and things like that, they require what I would call administrative maintenance. Somebody has to process. With this, it's the treasures out there, and it's out there. Hey, Toby, it's Candy, a.k.a. Stashes and Caches. 100% believe the treasure is hidden in Yellowstone, and the only way it can be found is by being in the exact spot and looking down. It's all about point of view and seeing something through Fenn's eyes. I do not disagree with most of that, Candy. I think that's a perfectly reasonable approach to the problem, if it is a problem. The adventure, I guess, is the best way to put it, better way to put it. So, we don't have to report that. Okay, text messages are done. No. So, Gardner, I did try to call you, pero your voicemail went to voicemail and your voicemail box is full. So, let me open up the phone lines. I don't know how we're getting Carter anyway. Okay, phone lines are open. 202-815-1171. Call in now and feel free to talk. I probably won't give you as long as I gave Joel, but I hadn't heard from Joel in several months now. So so I'm glad I did that. Until somebody calls in, let's play some music. And I'm going to, in just a minute, I got to go refresh my drink, actually, because as you can see, I'm down to the last hole. Shelley doesn't like Sambuca because it smells like licorice, and she doesn't like licorice. So she doesn't like it when I drink it around her. Longer Distance by Track Tribe.
See you.
Hey, Ron.
Down in the Wessel. Hey, Toby, how you doing, man?
Very good, thank you. And you?
Good, good.
So before we get started, tell everybody who you are.
My name's Ron Martin, retired Army officer, intel guy, mostly counterintelligence.
Uh-huh.
So I have an investigative background, and I also have a tactical intel background. So that's why I got kind of interested in the tactical side, or if you will, trying to do some deductive analysis.
Right. Yeah.
To try to determine where not to look, so we can focus on where to look. Right. If you will. So, also wanted to tell you, Toby, just on full disclosure, I haven't been boots on the ground. I'm not even sure I will search for the treasure, because it's just so big for me. But I can use my skill set, I think, to help narrow down possibly some of the terrain that we don't need to be looking at. And that's my sort of full disclosure, if you will.
Well, I would like you to tell folks about your experience that you've had building KMZ. What do they call KMZ plots? What are they? How do they refer to them?
Well,
on Google Earth.
On Google Earth, you can produce KMZs that are linear, i.e. a river or a road, or for instance the Bozeman Trail, or the Oregon Trail.
Right.
So you can project those onto Google Earth, so it gives you an idea. And again, the reason we do terrain analysis, and I can look at it from a military perspective, is as we look at the enemy, what's the enemy, if you will, for us, the searchers. I believe it's truly the terrain that we're looking at.
Yeah.
If we have to look at the terrain, this area is no-go. I mean, we can't go there. Forrest couldn't go there, so we can exclude that.
Yeah.
For instance, the elevation, Forrest has already told us that it's below 10,200 and above whatever he said. I can't remember.
5,000 and 10,200.
Yeah. So we can exclude those, and I think the other guy who's helping you out with maps can better illustrate that in an overlay, if you will. And again, the terrain analysis that we do helps us determine where the enemy is, right?
Yeah.
From a tactical standpoint, as an intel guy, that from a signals intelligence, we use a holistic approach.
Right.
Signals intelligence, human intelligence,
right,
and all these other things. So we can bring it all together and really narrow this down, I think, a little bit better. So Christy doesn't have to walk all over New Mexico
to find. Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to do. So I have a friend whose name is Mike Hempfling. Mike is the one that developed the Fenn Treasure Hunter app that works on smartphones. And It was through that app that I contacted him and I said, I need an app for field operations when I'm doing sand collection, but it could be used by anybody who's spending time out in the field and collecting source data, right?
Right.
So that you have something to work with. So he, over just a 2-week period, developed it. We decided how to monetize it for him, and it's been very helpful for me. I've done several videos, at least promotional kind of things for him already, and I will continue to do so because I'm using it. I just find every day I find another way to use it. So here's and I want to, and eventually I want to incorporate that kind of material in it too. But one of the things that I was thinking about is it possible, and I still need to have a meeting between the three of us, is it possible that we could develop a smartphone app that used the combination of ArcGIS, KMZ, and the application, the smartphone application development tools, and build us something on a smartphone that enables us to use the layering feature to eliminate locations. So if I'm standing in the Wind River Range, for example, so part of the Wind River Range, I know from experience, belongs to the Wind River tribe, and then there's part of it that doesn't. So could we build an ArcGIS or KMZ overlay that would say, based on where you're standing, you're still on Native American property? Or
absolutely. Okay. I believe we can do that. KMCs are very transportable, are usable in ArcGIS and other applications. It's kind of you can use it just about in any application you want. And I believe the geospatial guys are really good at that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know that is we've been doing that recently. At work where I work, and we've been using KMZs along with the ArcGIS folks, and they work really well.
Well, I think you were traveling. You were in Europe when I had this guy. I used Fiverr to find an ArcGIS guy, and I said, make me a map of 4 states where you highlight the dimensions between 5,000 and 10,200 feet, and then I make a second map because I wanted the dimensions between 7,000 and then 8,000 feet because that's the conclusion I came to. And then I rethought it and I asked him, give me a map of highlighting the altitude 100 feet either side of 7,600 feet. Right. 7,600 being the average between 5,000 and 2,000. And I thought to myself, so what he sent me eventually was a map that he sent me 3 different maps, right? Oh, actually, it was 12 maps because he sent me one for each state. And I was paying for this, but I couldn't communicate. He was in Pakistan or India. I can't remember now. It was obvious that he knew what he was doing, but I couldn't communicate. What I wanted was the ability to highlight that on a map dynamically by clicking, here's the altitude 1, altitude 2, or whatever you wanted to do it, and that they weren't just the printed out page. I couldn't get past that. So, and I think that's why I want to talk with you and have Mike in the conversation at the same time so that we can zoom in and determine how far we want to go. I mean, I suppose we don't want to go as far as the Toby solution, right? Here's the strip of land. Here's the land. Here's a map that indicates you can highlight the dimensions between, or the altitude, the terrain between 7,500 and 7,700 feet. That's very personal to me, right? But I think if we could highlight BLM land, private land, tribal land, even national park lands, in case you were one of those that believed it's not going to be on national park property because the problems associated with it, at least so people could, on their smartphone, because the smartphone has access to the GPS system, just say, based on where I am right now, what kind of property am I on?
Exactly. And I believe we can do this. I mean, I'm just up front, I'm not a techie guy, really techie person. But I can do these KMZs. For instance, I've already done most of Montana. I've excluded I've highlighted the national parks, the Indian reservations, and everything outside the Rocky Mountains.
Right. Yeah.
I've also highlighted all the waterways. And some key areas as well. So I've done Yellowstone, I've done Wind River Reservation, and the Grand Tetons.
Right.
I've already identified all those, so I've already have them in KMZs. And I'm looking at Google Earth right now, and it gives you a really narrowed focus on where to look.
So when you write one of those KMZs, can you share that with someone and they open it in Google Earth in order to see what you've implemented?
Absolutely. You could do it right now, Toby. If you go to Google Earth and you pull up one of my emails I sent you.
Hang on. Hang on just a sec. Let me get that to my inbox. So I have to have Google Earth. So I've got not Rocky Mountains. I've got that one, the most recent one that you sent.
Right. Okay. And that's a good one. That's a good one too.
Okay. So do I save that and then open it when I have Google Earth open? I've never done this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to.
Can you pull it up on your screen?
I'm going to do this. Hang on. Let me move some things around so that we don't release some private information here. Okay. So let me open up your email because I've got emails from other people that take that. Okay, so I'm going to go full screen right now. And the problem is you're going to be about 30 seconds behind me, okay?
That's okay.
So here's your email, and here's not the Rocky Mountains KMZ. So I'm going to download that. It'll go into my download file. And then what do you want me to do? Open up Google Earth?
Yeah, open up Google Earth.
Okay, hold on just a sec. I've got to.
I really hope this works because it's a great illustration.
All right.
Of what we can do. And I'm more than happy to share it with the community.
Yeah.
Right now, bingo! It should be available for everybody.
Google Earth Pro. Okay, so I'm going to open up Google Earth. And I'm going to go back to me, and I'm going to move. Google Earth is going to open on top of my screen, so I've got to move it over. So just give me a.
Okay.
Sarah, you can, when you look at Google Earth, you can say to Google Earth, I want to see this in terrain mode, and that will show the grade of the land as you describe it. So it would show the terrain. All right, let me move Google Earth over here, and this over here. Let me just say, close that. Okay, now Google Earth is open, and I'm going to open up the screenshot. All right. So Google Earth is open, and the viewers are looking at it. What do you want me to do now?
Okay, so if you go over to the left-hand side where it says Places.
Yeah, My Places.
Yeah, you can. So that's where it's going to show up. Okay?
How do I get it from my downloads file?
You just double-click it. Once you get it in the email there. You downloaded it. Go to your downloads and then just double-click it.
Double-click it?
Yep. It should download into Places.
Oh, cool. It just did.
and you click on, then you highlight it over in places, click on it, the little box if it's not already clicked, and there you go. It should show.
Yeah, it's got a red overlay in the
Right.
area that is not the Rocky Mountains.
Exactly.
Right. So that isn't, that's by the state. So that isn't complete. This is the one that you haven't finished. Is that correct?
No, I finished that one, not the Rocky Mountains, and I used that that was what Google Earth said was not the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
So that's off of their template, which is pretty close. I mean, we could get into finer detail through other maps out there. We can bring in that data, but that way you get a visual right away. So I've done this for all the rivers in Montana that are within the Rocky Mountains as well. So we can identify, it makes them pop out so you can really see them.
So if, like I said, so here's the Wind River Range right here. If I wanted you to exclude, and the tribal land goes right, it kind of splits the Wind River Range from this area here. So if we wanted an overlay that said this is the Wind River Tribal Range, you just make another KMZ, or you could make all the tribal. You could make all the tribal properties. Is that correct? In one KMZ?
I could do them in one KMZ, but I typically split each one up because they're different state. They're in different states and they're in different. So it's hard to do the tribal lands because they're isolated islands.
Yeah,
they're on their own.
Right. But if you wanted to do New Mexico, the other thing with New Mexico is there's 10 or 12 different. Actually, there's 21 total tribal properties in New Mexico.
Right. But yeah, do those fall within the Rocky Mountains?
No, about half of them fall in, either in the Rocky Mountains or in the Rio Grande Rift. Yeah. But some of them. So the advantage to New Mexico is the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico are almost exclusively National Forest Service properties.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, I stayed away from the national forest, but not the parks.
Yeah.
I did do the parks. I did Yellowstone. I've done the Grand Tetons, and let's see, what else have I done here? Wind River Reservation. I'm going to send you Wind River right now in an email.
Okay.
So it gives you another depiction of it. So I'm just going to send this to you.
Let me just go back to my email. So here's what I think we should do next. I'm talking with Mike tomorrow because I'm doing a little promo video for Pocket Field.
It's 9 o'clock.
It is 9 o'clock. Yeah. So I'm going to be talking. All right. So let me download that one. And then I go back to. What focused me on doing this was the Wind River Range.
I was very interested in Wind River Range, the reservation in and of itself. It just draws me there personally. But I wanted to know if Grave Lake was on the Indian reservation up in the mountains there, because I wanted to go to that lake. I think it's a beautiful lake.
Yeah.
Just as a hike, you know.
It is in the reservation.
Yes.
Yeah. And the reason is they do fishing tours up there. The reservation sponsors, well, not sponsors, you can pay the reservation and they take out of the, what's that Rose, Wild Rose Casino and Hotel. In just north of Lander. They take fishing trips up there.
Oh, wow.
Guided fishing trips up to the lake.
Just that whole area up there is phenomenally beautiful, I think.
So we could make the tribal properties a different color, say from the national park properties, things like that. Oh,
easy to change. You can go in and change that right now.
So this is the KMZ he just sent me of the Wind River Reservation. And like I said, it bisects the Wind River Range down here. Lander is over right there. Right. I think that's Lander. No,
and that was based off of the map that Google Earth has provided. I just highlighted. I was able to highlight it.
Yeah.
It's hard to do on Google Earth to use their maps, so I just made an overlay.
Yeah.
And as you see, if you zoom into the Grave Lake, I don't have it on the reservation, but you're telling me it is. So
it is, because I know I asked about it when we were staying at I think it's called the Wild Rose, something Rose Casino and Hotel. I asked about it, and she handed me a pamphlet for guided tours sponsored by the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to find
some of the things I've also done is I was very interested in Forrest's flights, going to Lander, and going to Cody and going to West Yellowstone, and I laid out those flight paths, and so I could see what he flew over on his way to those locations, just as a reference. And I have those available as well.
Oh, do you? It's interesting because if I remember correctly, if he flies from Santa Fe to Cody, I think it was, he flies right over the Toltec Gorge.
Yes,
I tracked that flight.
So that's a lot of it's some of it's very detailed information. The KMZs are kind of deep. They take a while to make.
Yeah.
But they're not hard to make in Google Earth. I mean, anybody can do them. You can see the toolbar at the top.
Yeah.
Where it gives you the pinpoints. The what is that? A hexagon or whatever it is at the top.
Right.
And then the lines. That's how you make them. They're not hard to make. Anybody can make them. So they're very easy to make. But I've done a lot of the work, and it's given me a lot of ability to focus.
Well, let me do this. Let me. I'm going to speak with Mike tomorrow about a complete other topic, but I'll bring this up and see if he feels it has potential. I don't know how much Mike knows about. I mean, he is an app. He is a smartphone application developer, and he does web work as well. I don't know if he knows anything about Google Earth or KMZ or ArcGIS, but even if he doesn't, if you can give me the data or the KMZ files, I can turn that over to our guy in Pakistan.
Yeah, and Toby, you can also download Google Earth onto your app, onto your phone, your smartphone, and download these KMZs as well, so
and play it out.
Smartphone,
maybe that's
you can lay it out.
Right. Maybe that's, like I said, the nice thing about what Mike has been doing is he makes it very integrated. He integrates them and gives you other features. If you could do that way, what I foresee is the situation where he's integrated them to the extent that you can, if he's integrated the features of Pocket Field Notes, where you can document your latitude, longitude, altitude, time, and date with someplace on Google Earth that you're at that moment in time. That's kind of a neat feature. So that's what I want. That's kind of how I foresee it.
Absolutely. I think it'd be a great tool.
Yeah.
I wanted to discuss two other things with you, and one is. Go ahead. Your video that you have on your website that you say begin here, all searchers, and you talk about reading the book and reading the poem.
Oh yeah, that kind of intro video.
Yeah, intro video. I would just add to that a significant amount of terrain analysis is extremely important for each state, because I don't think if you read the book and you don't know the terrain, and I didn't read the book. I haven't read the book.
Yeah.
I've only read the poem. And so I think, one, it gives you an appreciation of the terrain and just how rugged. Demanding it is.
Yeah, it's a very rugged. Yeah. The majority of the Rocky Mountains are more rugged than an 80-year-old man carrying a 22-pound load can tolerate. And I think that's one of the things that we considered. I don't think this treasure, I mean, he says 10,200 feet, but I know from experience that at 9,000, if you're at 9,000, maybe even 8,000 or lower, if you're not from the area, you're going to experience altitude sickness.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot of things we could do that says, if you don't believe the treasure, I mean, if you believe Fenn and say the treasure, he said it's not above 10,200 feet, you're going to eliminate a significant part of the Rocky Mountains. If you say it's not below 5,000 feet, you're going to eliminate another part of the Rocky Mountains, just by using those the terrain lines for those altitudes.
Yeah. And the other thing I would also, as part of the terrain analysis, is a historical analysis. It's a side benefit to what you're doing here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know that Forrest wanted people to know this.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Charlie Russell was.
Right.
I had no clue who he was.
Yeah.
Until I started doing research on Montana.
Osborne Russell.
Charlie Russell, the artist.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about this. Why did Forrest do this? You guys were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
And it came to a point in Charlie Russell was the same mindset. And he was upset about the change in the West and how it changed, how the old West was going away.
Right.
And so I think Forrest is a little bit, if I could get in his head a little bit, is a little in that mindset, if you will.
Yeah.
He sort of lost the old West the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I think understanding the history of Montana, understanding some of the critical sites like Alder Gulch.
Yeah.
People don't know that Alder Gulch was a huge gold mining place. I mean,
did you see our World Sand Project video from there?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't.
Well, tell your story and then I'll tell you mine.
Well, I mean, a lot of people traveled the Bozeman Trail and the Oregon Trail to get to Alder Gulch. It was a huge gold mining area back in the day.
And it was nowhere as difficult to get to as, say, some of the Alaskan gold. I mean, people,
absolutely.
People were dying. It was because they made a mistake. Alder Gulch still is. There are still claims in Alder Gulch where you can pull gold out of. And again, I'm going to share this with you. We had a show recently on World Sand Project with a sample from Alder Gulch, and he said it was sand. And what I realized after he sent it, it wasn't sand; it was tailings. It was sand-sized tailings. And so I thought to myself, well, if these are tailings, I'll bet you dollars to donuts there's gold in them. And sure enough, on the show, we found gold in that sample. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's
and I had to do the research on Alder Gulch, and they took, in the first year, they took $10 million worth of gold, today's dollars, worth of gold out of there. And by the time it was done, there was $30 million that they had taken out. The story is it was found by a couple of prospectors coming back from a prospecting trip further north and west. They stopped there for the night. One of them decided to pan out a little dirt from, the hillside, discovered there was a hell of a lot of gold in it. They went down to the town of, let's see what that town name was. It's a popular name. And anyway, they went down to the town, announced the find. Everybody was about to head up there. And here's what was great about this situation in Montana. All the miners had a meeting. They met together before people started shooting people over mining claims.
Right.
And they agreed on how the claims were going to be distributed. And they agreed that the three guys that found the gold would get the first three claims. And then after that, it was open up to the rest of them. And $30 million in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an amazing story.
Yeah. So maybe it was Virginia City or Ennis?
Virginia City. Yeah, that was
Virginia City. Yeah. So to me, I think part of the terrain analysis and historical analysis is important, so you get an overall picture of each state. And I think it's just a side benefit that really Forrest wanted everybody to know anyway.
Yeah.
Is to get to know these places.
Right.
Last year was the first year I've ever been to Yellowstone, and I didn't know anything about the treasure, and I wanted to go back we want to go back to Yellowstone because as I continued to do my research, I realized we missed so much, and I came across your video. And that's how I got involved in this, believe it or not.
Well, good. Well,
yeah,
good.
so,
I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do this. So we could probably talk all night on this topic. I know I could.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this. Let me talk with Mike tomorrow, see what kind of thoughts he has, and then I will set up a Zoom conference for the three of us sometime in the next week or so.
Sounds awesome, brother.
All right. And then I may even be able to get that guy from Fiverr involved if we have to. I don't think we have to. I think between you and Mike, we can get it all figured out.
Yeah, and you guys don't have to redo this work. I've already done it.
Okay, great. Even better.
It's no sense of other people going through and having to do the nug work. I got it. I'm more than willing to share it with the entire community.
Yeah.
So that we all have a share in it. I'm willing to do that.
That's great. I appreciate that because that's kind of the approach we take to all this.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Ron. Thanks for calling in. And was it your aunt that passed away?
Yes. Funeral services were yesterday, and we had an amazing funeral. And it's actually my wife's aunt.
Yeah.
And she was the executor for the will and everything. And it's just been absolutely crazy, on top of being sick, on top of throwing my back out, and on top of traveling. So it's been crazy.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad that it's over for you. My deepest and sincerest condolences for your aunt.
Thank you.
But at least it's another part of your life that can restart now.
Yeah.
All right,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too, brother.
Bye now.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. Friend from the Intel community. So let's do a giveaway. So did everybody go to last night's video? Go to last night's video, and we'll give this away to somebody. You know, perhaps you have a child in your life, or a grandchild in your life, or someone that you can entertain with these. Because if I had them, I would entertain all my grandbaby girls. Go to screenshot and video manager and nice. So you got about 10 seconds to go to last night's video to make a comment to see if you can win this. All right. Only rule is if you've already won something, we'll redraw. Okay, because except unless you're Mel Rustad, who's going to set the record for having won prizes from AGK. Okay, so here it is. That's the last night's video. The first Friday with Toby Younis and no MTP, sadly. We're going to copy that link right here. We're going to take it to commentpicker.com and pick the YouTube tools, YouTube random comment picker. We're going to enter the... I know this isn't as exciting as a Fenn picture or something like that, but I thought it was neat, and when I bought them, I intended to give them away to you guys. So there we are. Let's see how many people have made comments. 26. Ooh, small thing. Let's pick somebody out here. Randomly picking the Sassy. The Sassy doesn't want it. I sent her a bear, but she didn't win it. Okay, well, good. The Sassy. Let's put that down there. The Sassy 1962. And she has a new grandson, so this will be perfect. And I could imagine that she could entertain him with these. Let me write this down so I don't forget. These are the finger puppets. And I'll ship these out. They usually go out on Tuesdays because the mail system does an automatic pickup. But if I don't do it on Mondays, they don't. That's okay. Gypsy Kiss. We can say I left a voicemail. If I don't do it on Monday, they don't get the message and they don't pick up on. Or if I do it on Friday, they don't pick it up on Monday. So I have to do it on Monday. So they pick up on Tuesday, and they go all priority. So they only take a couple of days to get to you guys. So I still have all the pictures and the pendants from last week. Okay, well, that was fun talking to Ron. We hadn't actually talked. Let's see. Hi, Toby. The picture of stumps, birds, and bird's nest have a large significance. That also has to do with the environmental reason that the chest gets harder to find as time goes on. The stumps are a huge clue. Ken in Oklahoma. Wow, Ken's been busy tonight. Toby, let's see. Toby, don't have to read this on air. Okay. Gonna go there. Oh. Well, you know what, Ken? I will personally go and find out for you because I'm sure I can determine whether or not that is where warm waters halt. And I'm glad you advised me not to read that on air to begin with. All right. Oops, we're still over there. Let's come back here. AGK full screen with lower third is what we like to call that one. YouTube is there. And I think what we're going to do, we've given that away. Let's play some music. And oh, you know what? Somebody said there was a voicemail. Let me see what we got in voicemail. Hey, voicemail. Oh, that's from Riverside. So who's that? Stashes and Caches? Let's see what Stashes has to say.
Hey, Toby, it's Candy. I was just calling to talk about how I basically think that it is actually in Yellowstone, and I believe that Fenn put it in the most obvious place where no one's ever going to look, which is basically the Firehole River. Everyone knows I have the Firehole River solved. So I just want to talk about that and explain a little bit of what I unlocked by finding out what it is. So if you have time, give me a call back.
I'm
Thanks.
calling
Bye.
you right now, Candy. What?
Hello?
Hey, Candy, it's Toby.
Oh, hey, Toby. How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I spoke to you last year at Finbury, and you were the one that told me I should start a YouTube. So you finally inspired me to do it, and I've had it for like a couple of months, and it's really cool. So I was watching your show tonight because Kate told me to watch it.
Well, hang on. Let me. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Stashes and Caches.
Oh,
I believe
okay.
it should be linked in the chat.
Hang on. Stashes and Caches?
Yeah, it's CACHES.
Yes. Okay, that doesn't bring it up. Let me filter it with channels. I'm probably spelling it wrong.
You could try searching aberrations in warm waters because that's the first video I did, and it's about
how
the
long?
anagram.
How long have you had the YouTube channel?
I want to say just like a month or two.
No, I get Christie's and I get
that one. I think she's following the wrong one because I accidentally created something where it shows nothing. But if you look at aberrations in warm waters,
that's what I did. I'm still not getting it. But wait, when did you say you put it up?
Let me see. I think it was in January, like January 10th. Yeah.
All right. Spell Stashes and Caches for me to make sure I'm spelling it correctly. Go ahead.
So it's STASHES. And then the sign for and then Caches.
That's an ampersand and.
Yes.
Caches, the traditional spelling, right?
Yes.
CACHES. What the heck? All right, do me a favor. After we get off the phone, do me a favor and
send you the link.
Send me the link in an email, and that way I can post it in the room because you won't be able to post the actual. No, it's giving me everything but. So send me an email with the link, and then I'll post it in the room and put it in the description box below so people can get to it because I like supporting our new YouTubers when we can.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
All right, so let's talk about your theory about Yellowstone.
So there's like so many pieces that just scream that's Yellowstone. And I heard someone calling earlier how he said that Fenn said in the summertime his heart's always in Yellowstone. And that's, 100% true.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are very like they'll criticize you if you think it's in Yellowstone or you say Firehole, because they're like, it's been searched so many times, it'd be there. And I feel like with Fenn, the thing is that the poem itself actually, like you said, is paired with a map, but once you unlock how to read it properly, it's a set of instructions. So it's guiding you to start somewhere, and then it's telling you to stop. And you have to stop in that exact spot to be able to look down at something and be, in his point of view, to see where he hid the treasure. Because tonight on Terry Scant, I found an interview he did where he said that you had to be in the exact spot to see where it was hidden. And I was just like, whoa, that blew my mind, because I was already on this theory.
Well, he does say, look quickly down your quest to seize. One would have to assume.
Why are we looking up? That's why.
I see what you're saying. No, I agree with you. I think when we had a conversation. I don't know how long you've been in the room, but I had a conversation earlier about if you believe there are 9 clues in the poem, if you believe that the first one is begin at where warm waters halt, and the last one is look quickly down. The question you have to ask yourself is how many of those are metaphors and how many are literal. So my conclusion, my opinion, is that they are all metaphors. So when he says, look quickly down your quest to cease, the literal meaning would be, look straight down your quest to cease. The metaphor for that is something else, something different. So the question you have to ask yourself, and that I tell everybody to ask themselves, is of the 9 clues in the poem, which are metaphors and which are literal? Is not far but too far to walk literal, or is it a metaphor for something?
Well, I mean, I feel like that stanza where it says, taking the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, he's just saying that you have to go down the canyon, but you can't leave the canyon. If you leave the canyon, you're not going to be in the search area. So once you figure out, begin at where warmers halt, and then you figure out home of Brown, you're going to be in that search area. Right. So anybody who leaves the canyon, they're out. That's why he's saying not far, but too far to walk. So the option is you can only drive.
So for you, are the clues metaphors, literal, or combinations thereof?
Well, for a while I was driving myself crazy, but a couple of days ago, thanks to grammar, I actually think I unlocked what it actually is. I know a lot of people think that it is the quest because later on in the poem it says your quest to cease. Yeah. But if you look at grammar and you Google the he/she/it, it'll pop up saying waters is he, she, it. And same with halt. Halt is he, she, it. So it, I believe, is a river. And obviously my theory is that it is the Firehole River. But the thing is Fenn tells us in order to solve his poem, you have to have imagination and then follow the 9 clues. Well, if you look up the term for imagination, it's basically saying being able to see something others cannot, or, rearranging things. And that's basically saying to me an anagram. So I'm the person that's been on the kick where I took the Thrill of the Chase, a memoir book title, and I anagrammed it to say, it says the Firehole halts at home, see rim. And on my YouTube channel, I created my first video about that, and it's got, I want to say, like 1,500 views so far. So I think it's not too bad for what I'm doing. Yeah. But it explains everything about, imagination, unlocking with the anagram, because he says, there's aberrations that live out on the edge. And what's more edge than, the book title. Yeah. So once you have the book title, then it tells you what you can fill in for it in the poem. And once I did that, it created a instruction, just straight down instructions for me and what to do and where to be. Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I did find your channel. I have posted the link in the room. Number two, I was subscribed to your channel. So I did get the video of 3 weeks ago. And number three, the first time you said grammar, I didn't hear grammar. I heard grandma. So before you said it the second time, I was going to ask you how your grandma had helped you. And number four, I still need an answer to the question of the 9 clues, which are metaphors and which are literal.
I think they're all literal, to be honest.
Really? Wow. That is the first time I've heard that.
Really?
Yeah. I've heard. Well, I haven't heard. I'm the one that says they're all metaphors. I've had people say, as a matter of fact, you may have heard the conversation with Rio Grande Joe yesterday or day before, maybe it was Wednesday, and I asked him because he kept repeating, well, not far but too far to walk. You have to drive in your car, and I said, so that means it's literal, right? He's telling you it's too far to walk, therefore you have to drive. That's how you see it. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I see it. Because I watched K-Pro's little clip that she released about Fenn.
Yeah.
And Fenn saying, in order to start the chase, you have to get in your car and drive to the first clue.
Yeah.
So I believe the first clue is begin at where warm water's hauled, and then not far but too far to walk.
Yeah.
Ends right there. That's the first clue.
Yeah.
Second clue is put in below the Homer Brown.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone's getting so tripped up, because they're like, wait, do I park up here? Do I walk? I can't walk for 10 miles. A guy with, covering from cancer wouldn't be able to do it. So the thing is, with the Firehole Canyon, the only option you have is to drive down there, because people aren't allowed to walk down there. You have to physically get in a car and drive down to be below it.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to your Homer Brown. Is it literal or metaphorical?
It's literal. So I looked up the term the home of versus brown. And if you break them into two and then combine them, you can get an answer. So the actual term of the home of is something that was either discovered, introduced, or originated. So when you look at brown, you've seen so many times where Fenn has actually capitalized the names of fish and different things like that. So I'm old school and I go for brown trout. But the difference with mine is, of course, Nez Perce Creek is my home of brown, but I'm not going to that creek. I had problems for like 3 years where I was obsessed with the creek itself. I'm not going to the creek anymore because he says put in below the home of brown.
Yeah.
So don't go past it. Don't go before it. You have to be below it. And the brown trout were first introduced at Nez Perce Creek for Yellowstone. So it goes perfectly with this definition of the home of, where something was originated or introduced.
So you said in your voicemail that you're committed to Yellowstone and that you believe that, and I'm not sure how you put it, but it was the equivalent of the least obvious place is the most obvious place. Tell me
yes,
what you
in
mean.
Plain sight.
Yeah, tell me what you mean by that.
So everyone has pretty much just forgotten about Firehole River. They say that so many people have looked there that it's not there. So most people just scratch that off their list. They think it's not possible.
Yeah.
So they're looking other places. And when the first person became around 200 to 500 feet, from the chest, that was sometime in 2013. The same year of 2013 was the year Fenn released Too Far to Walk, where he has the story river bathing is best. And unless you were, on his blog, you wouldn't know about the Firehole River until that book came out. So all of a sudden we have the Firehole River that's in play. And I remember Dowell went there and he has a whole blog about going to Nez Perce Creek and figuring out about the Cowan family, things like that. So that's when I think they got the closest, but it wasn't Nez Perce Creek itself. It was just the area.
So I guess the obvious question is how, on a level of probability from 0 to 100%, how certain are you of your theory?
Well, I mean, I believe I have a full solve where I can go there and I could look this summer and see, because I'm not going to expose everything I have that I figured out, but what I figured out creates step-by-step instructions. I have the map paired with the poem, and you start in one spot and I'm going to be looking at one, and I believe there's a landmark in the poem that you're going to be looking up at. And so right when you're looking up, that's where you have to stand to look down. So I'm 100% happy, ready for my solve, but I'm not saying it's solved until I have the chest.
And
so I'm not one of those crazy people.
No, and that's fair. I mean, I think I'm okay when people say I'm comfortable with my theory, right? I don't feel as okay about people who say I know where the treasure is and I'm going to go get it next week, beat everybody to it. That's very different. So the next question is, when will you next attempt to implement your theory?
I mean, first I have to go back out to Santa Fe to see Fenn, and then I'm going to go to Montana. I wanted to go, Wyoming. Last year it was Montana. This year it's Wyoming. I want to go around July or August, because I believe he went out in August of 2009 and hit it. And I also believe in the story River Bathing is Best, that's the day he went and hid the treasure, when he went with his family and Peggy. And he talks about wishing they would follow his footsteps to that special place. So what I've gathered is that Fenn, he's the sweetest guy ever, but he has an ego. He likes to put things right in front of your face.
Right.
So you don't notice it, like with the book title and the anagram. So the picture where he talks about my secret fishing hole, I think that's actually the spot not too far away from the tree where he wants to pass away. And I also found on tonight that you go on Terry Scant, Fenn talks about wanting to die under a pine tree. He says, lay me under a pine tree and go on back to town. And I also found articles where he refers to West Yellowstone as town.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's a little interesting, but it also makes me think, if your solve area doesn't have pine trees, are you in the right area?
Well, no, I obviously most of Yellowstone is populated with pine trees. The Madison going north and west outside of Yellowstone is populated with pine trees, and that's the area I believe that had the most potential outside of Yellowstone. But that was also the area where he sent that one journalist in Fool's Gold. And I think that eliminates that area outside of there.
Oh, Grayling Creek?
No. The Madison north and west of outside of Yellowstone, north and west of West Yellowstone, as it goes into Hebgen Lake, and then north and west of that. So it's all outside of Yellowstone.
I'm pretty sure Grayling Creek, because it's a creek from Hebgen Lake.
Yeah.
So I remember Marty searched there and stuff, and I even had a solve for Grayling Creek because of looking for Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
There's actually, like, you could bring that down and it takes you there. But I went last year and looked at a creek in Hebgen Lake, and that's where my major solve was for a while. But Fenn even wrote to me, and he knew exactly where I was looking. I sent him videos, and he loved it. But there's something where it's just, it has to, I think it's Firehole River.
Yeah.
And I feel like the decoy is Hebgen Lake.
So you mentioned that you plan to go visit Fenn before you head north. So for what purpose do you wish to visit Fenn?
Well, I met him last year. I got to go to his house and hang out with him before Fenbury, and he is one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in my life. People do not understand how smart he is. And he has the most amazing collection of things. Like, you would not believe the collections he has. I'm sure you've been to his house.
I have, yeah.
I think you did, so you know what I'm talking about. But it was just so cool to see everything. And then he even let us go into the vault, and he gave us a few things, like a coin, and he gave me what was it? It was like a little jade bead. And then
from
this
San Lazaro.
I don't think it was from there.
Oh,
but
not if it was jade. That's right, not if it was jade.
Yeah, but it was just really cool. So I got to go in there and see all this stuff. So I know he's a very intelligent man, and I feel like he has the answers right there, but we're trying so hard to find it that we can't see it.
Yeah. So you said who was with you when you went to visit Fenn?
Oh, my boyfriend DJ.
Oh, okay. Oh.
He's a huge skeptic about the chase because I talk about it so much. I've been working on it for 5+ years. So anytime I even bring up Fenn or the chase, he runs out of the room.
Well, that's why we have the phone calls, so people can call in and talk about the treasure and not have to burden their significant other with a conversation.
That's so true. And Fenn, he gave me a book for Once Upon a While, the revised edition, and he signed it. And he drew a little stick figure, and it showed me running after DJ because he was running away from me.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. Well done. That's kind of cute. That's really cute.
But yeah, I'm planning on going. I wanted to go for July, but I can't because there's a huge Big Bear trip I do with my boyfriend and his family every year.
Yeah.
and it's always on the 4th of July. So I'm heartbroken
that Fenbury's at the same time. Yeah.
Yes, because I swear I would do anything to be there, especially for the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try and go a little bit beforehand.
Well, there is no guarantee this year that he will be there. I mean, he's progressively older, et cetera, et cetera. I think he enjoys, and he's going to need, Shiloh's help, et cetera, as he did this year to get up there. And he can't spend a lot of time, although everybody thought that he spent more time than he needed to at last year's Fenbury. So I guess I can get some pictures for you.
Oh, thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah. We'll post them for everybody, of course, and everybody can have pictures. But yeah, we're planning to be there. Best wishes on your attempt at Yellowstone. I hope if this is the year, then it's the year, because everybody's saying there's a lot of people that believe this is going to be the year that it's going to be found. So
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I mean, last year I feel like I got pretty close.
Yeah. Well, and the other benefit, of course, is it'll ease the pressure between you and your boyfriend if you show him the treasure.
Yeah, I can finally get him his Ferrari and he'll be happy.
Is that what he wants, a Ferrari? He's got good taste.
Yes, he wants a Ferrari so bad.
Yeah, good taste. I don't know. Has he seen the new McLaren? Ask him if he's seen the new McLaren.
I don't think he has. He's excited for the new Hummer, which is so sad, but oh well.
Well, the Hummer, it's a faux Hummer. It's not a real Hummer. But the other one that looks real good is the 2020 Corvette, the mid-engine Corvette. Oh. It's a really good-looking car.
And maybe I'll get that one for myself.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, Candy, thanks for calling in, or thanks for letting me call you back. I appreciate the conversation, and you're great to talk to, and it sounds like you've got all your ducks in a row, and we look forward to you recovering the treasure.
Thank you so much, and it was awesome talking to you, Toby, and I will definitely keep watching.
Please watch, and feel free to call in whenever you have something new or interesting to say or a question to ask, all right?
Well, I have so much, but I'm actually not allowed to talk about it because I have to save it for the Fenn Marathon on March 28th with Calazar and K-Pro.
You know what? I'm not gonna be able to be there because my daughter is the baby's supposed to arrive on the 23rd. They're gonna not the 23rd, the 26th. And if it's that long, they'll induce on the 26th. But I was going to suggest to K-Pro that one of the Titan things, what does she call it? Clash of the Titan things that she should do is get two people to discuss that conversation that you and I were having, because you believe they're all literal, I believe they're all metaphors, and I think that would be a heck of a Clash of the Titans conversation. And I would do it.
Awesome.
I would do it with you, except that I'm not going to be around, unfortunately. So. Because I do.
Well, I mean, we could always try another time.
Yeah. No, if maybe we'll schedule an hour show and zoom you in, and we can have that Clash of the Titans conversation.
Oh, that'd be funny. Yes, and I'll definitely look forward to it. Just keep me posted.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, Candy. Again, thank you for calling, and good luck with your treasure hunt.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye now. Okay, we did get a voicemail from, I'm going to play it. It's a Albuquerque number, so it might be...
How you doing? This is Bobby. I'd really appreciate it if maybe you'd give some more information and shed some light on all these people just waiting to carry their court. Anybody that finds that treasure chest, because people don't understand what's going to happen when they get it, and it's going to be a nightmare. Thank you, Toby.
You know, if I didn't know better, I would say that was me calling in with my fake Texas accent. Sounds like Bobby has, the question is, and considering the number of people in the room, considering the number of people, or the people that are in the room, I'm sure we can all agree with a high level of confidence that the person that finds the treasure, as Fenn said, is going to open up a Pandora's box of both positive and negative experiences, although Pandora's experiences were negative. But I think what he meant by that is that there's going to be both positive and negative experiences that the finder of the treasure is going to experience, and that they should be prepared for it. And if they're not prepared for it, give themselves the 30 days that he recommends to put the chest away, put it in a safe deposit box or a vault in their own house, and just keep it there while one considers what they do next. And the first thing I would do is contact an attorney and one that specializes in what do they call it? Unearned income, because that's where it falls in terms of the tax law. And then I would contact a tax attorney and maybe an accountant. I mean, one of the things I've always said that when I've had my businesses, because I was always the equivalent of self-employed, except since since Shelley joined me as a partner, is that I always had an attorney that I could count on, an accountant I could count on, an insurance agent I could count on. So, finding this chest, because of the amount of people that are looking for it, is going to be the equivalent of opening Pandora's box, and it's going to be good and bad experiences. Hey, Gardner, Kansas, thanks for calling back. What's your name? Calling from Gardner, apparently. And and what are your thoughts on the chest?
Okay, I'm Donna.
Hi, Donna. How are you doing tonight?
Hi. Oh, I'm good, but I wanted to apologize right off the bat. I talk extremely loud because I'm deaf in my left ear.
Yeah.
And I cannot hear out of the other. So I talk loud because I need to hear myself.
Wait a minute. I want you to say that again. So you're deaf in your left ear.
Yeah, and I can't hear out of the other.
So that makes you deaf in your right ear too, right?
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you could have just said I'm deaf.
Yeah, well, I don't wear hearing aids because they fitted me with them, and I didn't like what other people were hearing, and I said, forget it.
All right. Well, let's do this. I have a volume control right in front of me, and so I'll just control your volume from here. So
thank you.
Feel free to talk at whatever volume makes you comfortable.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I got in the poem. Forrest Fenn says, I can keep my secret where? And that line there, actually, of course, means unrevealed, an unrevealed secret. So do you believe Forrest Fenn has really kept his secret where?
So I don't know whether you are aware or not, but my partner, Shelley, just did a video on secret and how he uses that word. The way that Forrest uses that word, not only in the poem, but in every time he uses the word secret, he uses it in a way that he's implying that he has a specialized knowledge, a unique knowledge that he's not going to share with you. That's how he uses it. So the secret, he can keep his secret where, meaning I have a secret as to where this treasure is located. It's very specialized and unique knowledge. And because it's a secret, I'm not going to share it with you. That's how he uses it. I'm going to strongly, I'll let you talk in just a minute, but what I'm going to strongly recommend is that you go back to Shelley's video. I don't know if we've actually released it yet, but hang on. Let me check real quick before I mislead you here. Are you in the chat room as well?
No. When you said you were going to call me back, I shut everything down, so I haven't listened to you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I didn't want to make it to where it sounded weird on the other line. And I also, periodically I got back on, but I didn't want to have you call me and have that background noise.
Yeah.
Interrupting anything.
I'm comfortable that we have released that. Hang on, because that was the day that she decided that secret was the key word or the word that's most important. So I'm going to post a link in the chat room, and it'll stay there when you go back to the video. Hang on, I'm just going to play commercials first. So I'm going to post this in the chat room, and it's the video that Shelley did on the word secret, not only in the poem, but all the other times that Forrest has used the word. Take a look at that. She did some outstanding research on that. So I'm going to post it in the chat room, preceded by the word secret. So when you come back to watch the video and you look in the chat room here at 9:45 or 2 hours and 45 minutes into the video, you'll see this link.
Well, do you believe that Forrest Fenn has kept his secret that he seems to be talking about?
Absolutely, because he wouldn't then call it a secret. I mean, just by the way, by his own definition, right, two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. But Shelley's analysis goes way beyond that and how he uses it. Forrest's definition of the word secret is a specialized knowledge of an important and specialized piece of knowledge that I'm not going to share with you. That's his definition of secret. That's how he uses that word. When he uses that word in a sentence, that's how it comes out. So yes, otherwise, he would not use the word secret.
Well, I was wondering that because in the poem, it seems to me like he can keep his secret where, meaning like the location of the treasure.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it means.
So this is my problem I have with that. So why would Forrest Fenn tell all of us his secret? Why would he be telling us his secret? When he says, like you said, two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Yeah.
But yet he has obviously told everybody where that location secret is.
You mean in the poem?
In the book.
So you're going to have to tell me what you think you've read in the book.
It's, I have read the book. I didn't have it for a long time. I just went by the poem.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can keep his secret where, then that means it's unrevealed. It's an unrevealed secret.
That's correct. Right.
So we have to take off Montana. We have to take off the board Wyoming. We have to take off the board New Mexico. Why? Because he can keep his secret where. Now, if he can keep his secret where, then he hasn't revealed his secret. So therefore it's in Colorado.
Right. So, and you're doing that based on the fact that he doesn't mention Colorado in the Thrill of the Chase.
Right, because he can keep his secret where, so it must be in Colorado.
That's a big jump to me. That sounds like a great big jump.
It's a jump, but that's how I see it.
Oh,
and of course, I'm pulling strings just like all the rest of
right.
you. You know,
we all? Yeah.
We're all pulling strings here. I don't have the chest.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, you could, based on what you're doing, you've got an assumption that he talks about 3 of the 4 states in the book. And he keeps his secret, and you've tied that to the fact that the only one not mentioned in the book is Colorado. I think you could come to that conclusion. The question you have to ask yourself is, does that conclusion get you closer to where the treasure is?
If it's a correct assumption, it would take off 3 states.
Right.
Which would let you focus on 1 state.
Right.
If it's a correct
assumption. That's what it gives you. It gives you kind of what Forrest does when he tells us where not to look. He says, don't look in Idaho, don't look in Utah, don't look in Arizona, don't look below 5,000 feet or above 10,200 feet. It really doesn't get us closer to finding the treasure. It just tells us where not to look. So it falls into that category. I mean, it falls into the places not to look. Don't look in New Mexico, as you said. These are, you know, I'm looking in New Mexico. But you said don't look in New Mexico.
Do you think his poem, this is the way I look at his poem.
Yeah.
I look at his poem as the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end. And I've taken it on as an investigation of a body.
Oh, wow.
What I would be looking for, a dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm pretending I work for the police department and I am trying to find a dead body. Mm-hmm. So I need a motive.
Yeah.
So I look for the motive, so I look at what it can't be, but then I look for a motive of why he would bury this dead body, so to speak, of course. And then I eliminate things.
Yeah.
But then as you know, the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end. In other words, somebody's killed somebody in just make believe.
Yeah.
Somebody has killed somebody. That's the end. But now and they have buried the body. Now that's the end. That's the end. But when I come onto the investigation, I have to go back to the beginning. And I have to go through all the backtracks of everything that is going in between. And I have to guess at a lot of things.
Right.
Like everybody else. So I think that his chest is the end of life. I think he thinks of his chest as a body, part of him, the part of his body.
And he has said more often than not that he feels like he's left a little bit of himself in that chest.
Right. So that's how I'm doing it.
Did you spend some time in the police force that you're looking at this way, or is this just an approach you've taken?
No, no.
Okay. All right.
I was
just curious.
I'm friends with all the police department and everything like that, and I've helped them with a couple of investigations. But no, I'm not a police officer, and nor do I play one on this telephone on this telephone call. But I felt like I would go into it like an investigation, and the end is where he buried the treasure. I believe he did bury the treasure. Like I told you the last time, I just don't believe it's buried. I believe that it is a funeral procession. I think each level is another level of a play, so to speak. It's a Shakespeare play. And he is narrating it as I.
Yeah.
And he's narrating it, and in each one it goes through the levels. But I am at the end, because at the end is where the body is. But we got to go to the beginning and then go through all of this all the way down. And I don't necessarily believe that the poem is, when he says the poem is in consecutive order, it's in, what were some words he used?
Contiguous, continuous, and consecutive. Those are the three C's he used. Yeah.
That definition also is around the clock. Therefore, around the clock, like a circle of life. So when you go to begin at where warm waters halt, and you take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, put in below the home of Brown, you start over again. It goes around circles. The poem, in my looks, in the way I am thinking, is around the clock. And I'm going to tell you what made me think that. He starts the book out, and then he gets to the middle where he's in war.
Yeah.
And then he starts it out again as a child again. And that tells me that the center of a circle is his war for me. Because in around the circle is him as a child. Because most people that write books, you read it, and then he talks about string as a little boy and collecting cats after he's already been in war. So that to me is telling me that this poem itself goes around in a circle. And I don't know. I'm just as messed up as everybody else.
Well, no, that's, you know what? That's the first of 12 steps in fixing all of this, right? Recognizing that you're just as crazy as the rest of us.
Yeah, my family sure thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, see, well, you heard the young lady that called before. Her boyfriend doesn't want to hear anything about it. I'm very fortunate to have a partner that will at least listen to me. She'll at least listen to me. But I think for the most part, most of us will find that we can drive our significant others or family members crazy with all of this, because literally, if it wasn't for Shelley, my children, who are very tolerant of anything that I have to say or do, literally just don't want to hear any more about Fenn's treasure hunt. So That's okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so let's get back to the nitty gritty. Where you're looking in Colorado.
I am.
How many times have you been boots on the ground?
9 times.
Dang, 9 times, all in Colorado?
Uh-huh.
You ought to be searching with John Bobbitt. He's a Colorado person.
I know where John Bobbitt is.
Oh,
actually, I wrote him.
He called last night to tell me that he was going to get the treasure today, and I did get a text message from him earlier today saying that he couldn't get to the treasure because it was snowed in.
Oh, I bet.
Which is what I
I'm not going right now,
yeah, good.
And I'm not in the area that John Bobbitt is, but I do understand why John Bobbitt is at that area.
Right. Yeah.
Where he has just as much chance as any of the rest of us
in the
because
quadrants, in the Colorado quadrants. Although I guess so, if I divide Colorado right down the middle, both vertically and horizontally, which corner of Colorado are you in? Northwest, northeast, southwest, or southeast?
Let me just tell you where my property is. I have property at Twin Lakes, Colorado. I have 2 acres on Mount Albert Drive.
You know what? Mount Albert was the last mountain I climbed before leaving Colorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
14,488 feet.
I thought, I go there.
Yeah.
My son is a gold miner there, and I go there a lot.
Yeah.
And so why not, travel around where we are just down the road. I mean, by Northrop, and Salida.
And that's National Forest property there.
So, I don't feel like I'm losing money then.
Yeah.
Because I'm there anyways.
Right.
Now, I'm already in Salida.
Right.
My RV is living in Salida right now.
Yeah. I love we like Salida a lot.
Yeah, and just because of the area, I have to have a Where Warm Waters halt. I have to have all of those things, but I'm in Colorado because that's where my property is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have even looked, probably because. So I'm in, I would say, what would you say? A central? Would you say Salida's in central Colorado?
No, I would call it in the southwest quadrant, Salida.
Okay, well.
Because it's on, just west of the San Luis Valley. Right. So
okay, I'm on 24 Highway.
Yeah. I know where it is. I've been up there several times.
I heard you were there, and I was there 2 days before that when you were in Salida, and I'm like, oh my God, had I known that, I would have just stayed another 2 days and said, hey, let's have coffee.
Let's have coffee. Yeah. So did you search Browns Canyon?
I did.
You did? Yeah. It's pretty common.
I did, and I had fun.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would find the treasure. But you know what?
Nice
I had fun. I had fun with my son.
And great trout fishing to boot, right there on the Arkansas.
I don't know how to trout fish, but I'd like to learn.
It's pretty easy. You don't have to use a fly rod. You can use a dozen. What do they call them? Artificial lures. Spinning is the easiest way. Trout, especially if they're what do they call them? If they're raised in a hatchery, trout always love that little flashing spinner. They'll bite at that all the time. Flies are a little bit
different. Is that the hatchery they have in Leadville?
Yeah, same one.
Yeah, because there's people searching in Leadville because of Molly Brown originated in there.
Yeah, you know all the Colorado locations, huh?
Well, my son was sent by his doctor from Overland Park, Kansas to Colorado.
Oh.
Because of health reasons.
For the fresh air and sunshine?
Well, no, for medical marijuana.
Ooh.
Well, why lie?
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And it took away very dangerous drugs.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. He had me try it one time just because I had a toothache out of this world. And my toothache was so bad, Toby, that I said, fine. I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't take it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think I would rather have I think I would rather have had the toothache.
The toothache, or at least have a dentist do the operation.
Yeah, because you know what? The toothache, I didn't feel the toothache anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I was so freaked out that I was going to die.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I hope I never have to have it. But I'm just saying I will never do that again.
Well. All right. So
okay.
Good luck with your treasure hunt. And you've got some great assumptions. I don't have the treasuries, so I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But good luck and have fun in Colorado. It's a great place. I personally, although I don't think the treasure's there, I love Colorado because it's just a beautiful state to drive through. I mean, there's just so much going on.
My grandparents.
It's got to be one of the prettiest states in the nation.
My grandparents. Well, I come from an old family. I'm actually touching the 1800s because all my grandparents are from the 1800s.
Yeah.
My dad's mom was the youngest from the 1900s, and they homesteaded in Lyman, Colorado. And I personally have clear from the 1800s. I have what do you call that, Mac? Where you have mineral rights.
Oh, wow.
I have mineral rights for that property in Lyman, Colorado, which is a great big place.
Yeah.
And I don't own the land, but I do have the mineral rights. I just think it's kind of cool.
Have an agreement with those folks that do own the land and see if you can find some placer deposits on it.
Too bad it wasn't where Forrest Fenn's treasure is.
Yeah, exactly. Then there'd be a fight with them. All right, 10 o'clock. I got to go.
I won't keep you. I thank you so much. You have a good night.
My pleasure. And you and your son, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
I appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was cute. Okay, guys, it is 10 o'clock. We've done the drawing, taken care of that. Sassy wins it. I think it's time for us to call it a night, huh? Let's see. Another one of my videos. Do this tomorrow night. You're like, okay. I'm going to show that because I have the slightest idea what you're talking about. Hush.
I left my boots and my faded jeans in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Well, you guys did pretty good tonight considering our I haven't seen our moderators for a while. I don't know what happened to them. They're off partying someplace, I suppose. But thank you for that. Thanks for pretty much behaving yourselves tonight. We didn't need moderation, and it goes by too fast for me to see anything. I'm doing too many things.
In drunken episode. Those flashing lights and them busted fists and winning with no name.
Callers, thanks for calling in. You guys were great conversations. And lots of fun. I really enjoyed talking to our callers tonight. Blazing Paddles, the pleasure was mine. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Sarah, did you get your cooking done? I saw the beginning of the story, never saw the end of it.
'Cause she played the kind everyone stands to. Sweet already, the midnight rendezvous, and she played memory.
Hex, thanks for joining us tonight. We had a great time.
Sweet soft melody that took me back to you.
Yeah, Sarah, they were. I love the callers tonight. A lot of fun to talk to. They were just, I guess, rational. I guess that counts, right? Thank you, Thor Girl. I appreciate it. Had a good time, and I hope you guys did too. Remember, for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, saints and sinners, join me next Saturday night on the Saturday Night Church of the Search, so we can open this up, open up calls, and have calls like that. I mean, if I would have a good night next week if all the same callers that called in tonight called in again, right? Hint, hint. Sarah started done with dinner and now starting breakfast. I drank her words like they were wine and looked into her eyes. She turned her head and walked away and made me realize the longest days and the darkest nights were more than I could face. When I wrote this song, it sounded like this. The thing that I could do was leave that goddamn place. That's how I wrote it. Hey guys, I love that you're here with me. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed the night as much as I did. We'll do this again sometime. I don't know why. I'm about to change clothes and head over to the casino, but I like this time that we spent together. So we'll see you again on Wednesday night. The Magical Treasure Princess will be back, and then again on Friday, and then I'll see you again next Saturday on my own. All right? You guys have a good evening. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to spring forward your clocks.